Chapter 5188. Without the core of the universe would be unstable. This was also the reason why no true immortals had come to the primitive universe. But now, Wang Gu and the others had used the immortal weapon and displayed the power of the immortal Tao, forcibly breaking the seal of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. How could the people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm not be furious? A crack had been cut open in the seal of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, so the sound could be heard clearly. It's just a broken immortal weapon, not a complete one. Its power is only infinitely close to the power of the immortal Tao. So what? Wang Gu sneered and continued to widen the crack in the seal of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Rumble. Rumbling sounds could be heard in the vast universe. The laws of the universe seemed to be destroyed. Oh no, the primitive universe really can't take it anymore. Quickly put away the immortal weapon. The people of the sacred light great cosmos shouted. Wang Gu's expression changed drastically. Even if the broken immortal weapon was fully recovered, its power was too strong. The primitive universe seemed to be unable to take it anymore. Wang Gu didn't dare to continue, or the primitive universe would really be destroyed. He didn't care about the destruction of the primitive universe, but he was still in the primitive universe and would be destroyed along with it. He didn't want that to happen. Come back. Wang Gu shouted and tried his best to put away the broken immortal weapon. The seal had been broken, so there was no need to use the broken immortal weapon. With a buzz, the broken immortal sword turned into a ray of light and was put away by Wang Gu. The ripples in the universe disappeared. After all, it was just a broken immortal weapon and not a complete one. Moreover, it would only be used for a short while, so it wouldn't cause too much of an impact. Of course, it was hard to say if it was used continuously. When Wang Gu put away the broken immortal sword, the old man of the sacred light great cosmos shouted and reached out with both hands. Two huge hands formed and grabbed the two sides of the crack created by the broken immortal crystal. They pulled outwards, trying to widen the crack and completely tear the seal. Stop them. Repel them and the crack in the seal will automatically heal. The people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm shouted. There were many people in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. The total number of people was no less than 1,000. However, most of them were only at the origin realm. There were only a few sub-immortals. These were the elites of the Azure Divine Realm. They worked together to set up the formation. This was not a joint attack formation, but a top-tier source-grade formation. With a sub-immortal as the core and thousands of origin sources as the foundation, this was a top-notch origin formation. This was an ancient formation passed down from the last epoch. Its might was astonishing. Clearly, the Azure Divine Realm had made preparations long ago and set up a grand array in advance. The large array activated and turned into a primordial divine dragon that pounced forward. Its dragon roar shook the world as it extended its dragon claws and grabbed the two large hands formed by the elder from the sacred light great cosmos. The two large hands were shaking violently. A bunch of ants want to break through me? How naive. Open up. The elder from the sacred light great cosmos shouted coldly. He was a ninth tribulation sub-immortal and was really strong. With a shout, his power erupted, and his two hands became even more solid. They actually widened the crack in the seal. Today, the remnants of the primordial world's human race will be wiped out. Wang Gu put away the broken immortal weapon and caught his breath. He stretched out his hand, and two large hands formed and grabbed at the crack, wanting to completely tear the seal apart. A ninth tribulation sub-immortal was too strong. Even if the powerhouses of the Azure Divine Realm had set up a top-notch origin formation, they would not be able to stop him. The difference was too great. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura rushed out from the depths of the Azure Divine Realm. A withered hand stretched out and blasted toward the crack. Finally, it collided with Wang Gu's hand at the crack. Boom! It was as if two universes had collided. Heaven and earth rumbled as a terrifying power erupted. The ground of the Azure Divine Realm shook violently, and many places exploded. Mountains and rivers exploded, and rivers dried up. Fortunately, this was a fragment of the heart of the universe. If it had been a fragment of another continent, it would have been destroyed by this attack. Dense cracks appeared on Wang Gu's giant hand, and then it exploded. He staggered back, his face pale. True immortal? Wang Gu was bewildered. In the depths of the Azure Divine Realm, an old figure walked out step by step. Primogenitor. The people of the Azure Divine Realm exclaimed. If Lu Ming were here, he would definitely recognize that this was one of the primogenitors of the Azure Divine Realm. Juniors, don't push your luck, lest you get yourself killed, the primogenitor of the Azure Divine Realm said. The ancestor of the Azure Divine Realm spoke. He looked extremely old, but the aura he exuded right now was world-shaking, suppressing the ancient times. The heart of the universe of the primitive universe has already shattered. How can there be a true immortal? Even a true immortal would have fallen after the heart of the universe shattered. Now, he is no different from us. The old man from the sacred light great cosmos spoke with a deafening voice. Wang Gu was shocked and instantly recovered. In the exchange just now, he actually felt the aura of a true immortal from his opponent. He was shocked and lost his composure. Although they were already ninth tribulation sub-immortals, they were only one step away from becoming a true immortal. However, their combat power was definitely worlds apart. It would not be difficult for a true immortal to kill them. It would only take a finger. However, after the old man from the sacred light great cosmos reminded him, he immediately reacted. The heart of the universe of the primitive universe had already shattered. The other party had not left and had been staying in the primitive universe, so his cultivation level had already fallen. Moreover, if the other party really had the combat power of a true immortal, he would have died from that move. Humph, old man, even if you were a true immortal in the past, I will slaughter an immortal today. Wang Gu shouted coldly and stepped forward again, approaching the crack of the Azure Divine Realm. A nether river appeared and surrounded him. A ninth tribulation sub-immortal weapon also appeared in his hand. Let's go out and fight. Otherwise, the aftershocks of our battle will help them break the seal. Another voice sounded from the depths of the Azure Divine Realm. A white-haired old woman appeared and stepped through the air. Another primogenitor appeared. Another crippled immortal. Wang Gu sneered sarcastically and called the two primogenitors crippled. The two primogenitors were unmoved. They turned into two beams of light and rushed toward the crack of the seal. The two beams of light were like two peerlessly sharp treasured swords. They slashed at the two hands of the old man from the sacred light great cosmos. With two loud bangs, the two hands exploded. The two primogenitors had already appeared outside the seal. The crack in the seal kept squirming and seemed to be slowly recovering. Don't give them time. Let the seal recover. Wang Gu shouted and took the initiative to attack one of the primogenitors. Boom! The two clashed for the second time. Wang Gu's body trembled violently as he retreated. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. He was completely at a disadvantage in a head-on clash. Chapter 5189. Even if I'm not at my peak and have fallen from the true immortal realm, it won't be too difficult for me to kill you. The patriarch of the Azure godly realm might be old, but he was still full of fighting spirit and invincible belief. When he was at his peak, he was a true immortal, an immortal path elite. Even if his cultivation level had fallen, he was still not someone an ordinary sub-immortal 9 tribulation could compare to. He stepped forward, his aura flourishing, and his body glowing with multicolored light. He waved his hand, causing a huge seal to fly out, causing a huge wind to blow as it crushed down toward Wang Gu. It was a sub-immortal weapon of the 9 tribulation. True immortal weapons were born in the chaos or were born at the beginning of the universe. Therefore, there were not many of them and could be said to be extremely rare. There were not many immortal path elites who had immortal weapons. Many immortal path elites did not have immortal weapons and used sub-immortal weapons of the 9 tribulation. For example, the Azure godly realm only had one immortal weapon. In the end of the primordial era, in order to avoid a disaster, he destroyed his immortal weapon and extracted the immortal origin to make a seal. However, the sub-immortal weapon of an immortal path elite was actually different from the sub-immortal weapon of a sub-immortal. The sub-immortal weapon of an immortal path elite was constantly tempered and nurtured by immortal chi, and had actually mutated. Although it had not become a true immortal weapon, it was still stronger than an ordinary sub-immortal weapon. This was the case for this huge seal. As the huge seal pressed down, Wang Gu's expression changed drastically, and he shouted, "What are you waiting for?" Boom! Behind Wang Gu, the void exploded as a figure stepped out, wielding a halberd. He joined forces with Wang Gu and unleashed a powerful attack, blocking the gigantic seal. Another sub-immortal 9 tribulation. He was also from the Nether River Great Cosmos. There was more than one sub-immortal 9 tribulation from the Nether River Great Cosmos. Indeed, there are still people hiding in the dark. Are there any more? Come out together. The Patriarch of the Azure Godly Realm said. Today, I will slaughter the immortal. Another cold shout rang out, and another figure appeared on Wang Gu's right. There was no doubt that the person who dared to talk about slaughtering the immortal was a sub-immortal 9 tribulation. Against an elite like the Patriarch of the Azure Godly Realm, an ordinary sub-immortal 8 tribulation was nothing. The third 9th tribulation sub-immortal was a woman. She had a graceful figure and was surrounded by a nether river. Her aura was oppressive. The Nether River Great Cosmos is really generous. They actually sent 3 9th tribulation sub-immortals. Today, all of you shall stay here. The primogenitor of the Azure Celestial Realm shouted as he activated his seal and attacked with all his might. Slaughter immortals. The 3 great elites of the Nether River Great Cosmos joined forces and engaged in an earth-shattering battle with the primogenitor of the Azure Godly Realm. After a few moves, the Azure primogenitor was at a disadvantage. Although he was a true immortal when he was at his peak, his cultivation level had ultimately fallen. His current cultivation level was only a 9th tribulation sub-immortal. Naturally, it was more than enough to deal with an existence of the same level. However, he was completely no match for 3 true immortals. None of those who could survive the 9th stage immortal tribulation and become a 9th stage sub-immortal were simple. They were all peerless demonic geniuses with outstanding combat prowess. Weaklings would have died long ago under the immortal tribulation, unable to reach this step. On the other side, the other progenitor of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, the white-haired old woman, was in an even more dangerous situation. This was because a total of 4 9th tribulation sub-immortals had come from the Sacred Light Great Cosmos. The 4 of them had joined forces, and the white-haired old woman had been injured in just one move. Primogenitor. The people inside the Azure Celestial Realm shouted worriedly. Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the others also clenched their fists nervously. However, at this critical juncture, another figure walked out from the depths of the Azure Celestial Realm. It was a young man, at least on the surface. He looked like he was in his 20s and had a heroic appearance. However, his eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life, as if he had lived through the ages. Primogenitor. It's the thoughtless primogenitor. Lu Song and the others exclaimed in surprise. The legends are true. The thoughtless primogenitor is still here. Yao Yi was also very excited. The thoughtless primogenitor? Lu Ming asked curiously. Legend has it that our Azure Celestial Realm has a total of 3 primogenitors. They were all immortal Dao powerhouses in the previous epoch. The thoughtless primogenitor was the strongest, but it was said that he was severely injured in the Great War of the previous epoch. Therefore, after sealing the Azure Celestial Realm, he has been in a deep slumber. No one has seen him, Lu Song explained. Previously, there were also rumors that the thoughtless primogenitor had been severely injured and might have already died. Now, it seems like everything was false. Lu Song said. Lu Ming couldn't help but recall that there were a total of 3 ancient altars in the ancestral hall in the depths of the Azure Celestial Realm. Previously, people had appeared on 2 of the altars. They were the 2 primogenitors. Only the altar in the middle hadn't appeared. Now, it seemed like the charcoal in the middle corresponded to the thoughtless primogenitor. The thoughtless primogenitor took a step forward and appeared outside the seal. He threw a palm strike at the two ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the sacred light great cosmos. Boom! The two ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the sacred light great cosmos retreated rapidly. The thoughtless primogenitor didn't say a word and continued to attack. His palm strikes were endless, completely suppressing the two ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the sacred light great cosmos. When he attacked, he also diverted some attention to attack a ninth tribulation sub-immortal of the nether river great cosmos, pulling him into the battle. He was fighting three great experts alone. In this way, the pressure on the other two primogenitors was greatly reduced, and the situation was stabilized. The chaotic battle between the top 10 experts turned the void into chaos. The scene was terrifying, and outsiders couldn't interfere. Attack and continue to break the seal. Exterminate the remnants of the human race. A ninth tribulation sub-immortal of the nether river great cosmos transmitted his voice. Kill. The other experts of the nether river great cosmos shouted. At least a dozen experts charged toward the azure celestial realm. They were all sub-immortals, and there was no lack of 8th tribulation sub-immortals who had undergone 8 immortal tribulations. When they attacked, a powerful force bombarded the crack in the seal. Without the influence of external forces, the crack had been slowly healing. Now that it was attacked, it slowly tore open, and the crack grew bigger. Stop them. Inside the azure celestial realm, there were a total of a dozen sub-immortals. They led thousands of origins and set up a top-notch source-grade array. They activated the array and transformed into a huge dragon that pounced on the experts of the nether river great cosmos. Instantly, many people were repelled. If you want to die, I'll kill you first. The people of the nether river great cosmos roared. Many people rushed into the seal, wanting to eliminate the experts of the azure celestial realm first. Charge in and kill them all. The sacred light great cosmos also attacked. At least 20 sub-immortals rushed into the crack. The two great cosmoses had a total of more than 30 sub-immortals. Almost 40 of them were sub-immortals. When they joined forces, they defeated the huge dragon in an instant. Boom! 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 Dazzling and terrifying attacks attacked the people of the azure celestial realm. The attacks of both sides collided constantly, and the entire azure celestial realm shook. Pft! Pft! Many people in the azure celestial realm turned pale and vomited blood. Chapter 5190. If it weren't for the formation set up by the people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, those origins wouldn't have been able to participate in the battle and would have died instantly. Let's fight to the death and keep them all here. That's right. Since they want to seize our homeland, we must make them pay the price. The people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm roared. Many Origin Realm existences went all out, burning their origin power with all their might. A few of them even burned their origin roots. The price they had to pay was naturally very heavy. The after effects were huge, but they couldn't care less now. Under the lead of more than 10 sub-immortals, the people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm unleashed the power of the formation to the extreme, condensing 9 huge primordial divine dragons that pounced on the experts of the two universes, trying to keep them all here. You're courting death. You overestimate yourself. There were almost 40 sub-immortals in the two universes, and there were even 8th tribulation sub-immortals among them. How could they be killed so easily? The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. This way, no one attacked the seal, and the crack on the seal slowly closed. Send some people to expand the gap in the seal, an 8th tribulation sub-immortal of the Holy Light Great Cosmos ordered. Don't even think about it. We must hold them back. The people of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm roared. More people burned their origin roots to cut off their escape route and frantically activated the formation. Their goal was to hold back the experts of the two universes and let the gap in the seal close. The 9 primordial divine dragons roared. They were extremely huge and almost filled the entire Ashen Azure Divine Realm. For a moment, the experts of the two universes couldn't get away. The two battlefields were in a state of anxiety. It would be difficult to determine the outcome of the battle in a short time. But at this moment, the void cracked and 4 figures suddenly walked out. the four figures were all enveloped in pure white light. From their appearance, they looked like people of the holy light great cosmos. However, Lu Ming could tell at a glance that they weren't from the holy light great cosmos, but the heavenly human race. That's right, they were from the heavenly human race. Lu Ming had interacted with the heavenly human race countless times, so he was very familiar with their aura. There was no way he would be mistaken. The four elders of the heavenly human race had powerful auras. They were far stronger than any heavenly human that Lu Ming had ever seen. The four lords of the heavenly palace were nothing more than ants and dust in front of the four heavenly humans. The four heavenly human elders attacked as soon as they appeared. For terrifying sword lights slashed at the gap in the seal of the azure divine realm. Rumble. That gap was actually slowly growing larger. From this, it could be seen how powerful those four heavenly human elders were. Damn it, where did these four fellows come from? Lu Song roared. The heavenly human race. To be exact, it's the demi-human race. Lu Ming said. Demi-human race? I remember now. I saw records in an ancient book that the demi-human race was enslaved by the human race in the previous epoch. Said Yao Yi. What? Slaves? You actually dare to rebel? Lu Song roared. Lu Ming didn't say anything. The four great experts of the celestial race appeared here in such a timely manner. They were definitely not simple. The holy light great cosmos and the underworld river great cosmos had almighty figures behind them who had deduced that the azure divine realm was a fragment of the universe core. Lu Ming didn't believe that anyone from the celestial race could deduce it. It was impossible. The strongest ancestor of the celestial race, Ye Immortal, was still at the origin realm. The celestial race didn't have such a powerhouse. Clearly, the celestial race had been secretly watching the azure divine realm. Perhaps it had something to do with their identity. The celestial race had been enslaved by the human race in the previous epoch. Therefore, they must have been very wary after knowing that there were remnants of the human race in the azure divine realm. It was normal for them to pay attention to it at all times. Now, the celestial race had immediately joined forces with the two great cosmoses to destroy the azure divine realm when they saw the two great cosmoses making a move. They wanted to get rid of the greatest threat in their hearts. Of course, this was only Lu Ming's guess. Perhaps the celestial race had already defected to the holy light great cosmos. Back when Lu Ming had returned to the eastern cosmos, he had been besieged by the celestial race. The celestial race had the forbidden soldier domain, so Lu Ming had already suspected that the celestial race had defected to another great cosmos. It was most likely that they had defected to the holy light great cosmos. This was because the power that the celestial race cultivated was rather similar to the holy light great cosmos. It's the demi-human race. These traitors. An old sub-immortal in the azure divine realm recognized the four celestial race elders and immediately roared in anger. Rumble. The four celestial race elders didn't say a word. They attacked the gap in the seal with all their strength, causing the gap to expand continuously. If this continued, the seal of the azure divine realm might really be completely torn apart in the long run. The four celestial race elders were extremely powerful. They were all sub-immortals who had undergone 7 immortal tribulations. They were completely capable of tearing apart the seal as time passed. The people of the azure divine realm were furious, but unfortunately, they were powerless to stop them. They had already gone all out to stop the sub-immortals of the two great cosmoses. This meant that they had to stop the 4 sub-immortals. Well done. The holy light great cosmos will remember this. An expert from the holy light great cosmos laughed. Whoosh. Suddenly, a sword light slashed out from the void and slashed toward one of the celestial race elders. However, the celestial race elder was already prepared. In such a battlefield, it was impossible not to pay attention to their surroundings. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. The moment the sword light appeared, the celestial race elder sensed it. The celestial race elder roared and resisted with all his strength. However, the sword light was extremely terrifying and powerful. Even though the celestial race elder reacted in time, he couldn't resist it and was sent flying. A sword mark appeared on his chest, almost cleaving him in half. Then, a figure appeared with a battle sword in hand and slashed at the other 3 celestial race elders. The sword light whistled. It was so powerful that the 3 celestial race elders had no choice but to stop attacking the seal and block it. Boom! 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 After 3 consecutive explosions, the 3 celestial race elders retreated. The figure also drifted backward. "Han Ming, it's you!" one of the celestial race elders roared. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Han Ming? The master of the heavenly court? Lu Ming took a closer look and indeed saw that the figure was indeed the master of the heavenly court, Han Ming. Han Ming had disappeared since they parted ways back then. It had been more than 10,000 years and he had finally reappeared. Han Ming's current state was much stronger than before. His aura was as oppressive as a stormy sea. He was facing 4 seventh tribulation subimmortals of the celestial race alone. Lu Ming really wanted to rush out and ask Han Ming why he had given him the Chaos Ring back then. Did he already know that the Chaos Ring was a fragment of the heart of the universe? "All 4 of you old dogs have come out. The demi-human tribe has sent out all their experts. Fine, I'll kill you 4 today." Han Ming grinned. He was very domineering. "Han Ming, you were seriously injured and on the verge of death back then. Although you've recovered a little, you've only recovered to the level of a 6th tribulation subimmortal. The 4 of us are 7th tribulation subimmortals. Do you think you can kill the 4 of us?" One of the celestial race elders sneered. "So what if I'm a 6th tribulation subimmortal? It's enough to kill you 4 old dogs. If it weren't for the Yi immortal back then, I would have chopped off your heads." Han Ming smiled contemptuously and suddenly attacked. Chapter 5191. Han Ming looked like a middle-aged man. He was burly and had a domineering aura. He was wearing armor and holding a battle sword. His aura was shocking. Lu Ming recognized that the battle sword and armor on Han Ming's body were one of the 4 treasures of the heavenly court. They were as famous as the Origin Stone and the Chaos Ring. Back then, Han Ming had taken the other 3 treasures and left the Chaos Ring to Lu Ming. The armor and sword were called the 9 Tribulation Armor and 9 Tribulation Sword. Lu Ming couldn't help but guess. Could it be a 9th Tribulation subimmortal weapon? Han Ming shouldn't have reached the 9th Tribulation subimmortal realm when he was at his peak. If it was a 9th Tribulation subimmortal weapon, it should have been dug out from some ruins. Han Ming was very powerful. He was only a 6th tribulation subimmortal now, but he didn't care about facing the 4 7th tribulation subimmortals of the heavenly human race. The 4 7th tribulation subimmortals of the heavenly human race didn't dare to be careless. They joined forces and fought against Han Ming. They knew that Han Ming was a 7th tribulation subimmortal like them when he was at his peak. However, Han Ming was too strong. They were too weak in a battle of the same level. Back then, they could suppress and almost kill Han Ming because of the strongest patriarch of the heavenly human race, Yi Immortal. They also cooperated with the other experts. The heavenly human race had more than 4 7th tribulation subimmortals at their peak. They had more than a dozen 7th tribulation subimmortals, but Han Ming still killed 3 of them and destroyed a heavenly palace. It was a heavy loss. Now, the heavenly human race only had 4 7th tribulation subimmortals left. They were the strongest force. They were traumatized by Han Ming. Even though Han Ming's cultivation was lower than theirs, they still used their full strength. For a time, the 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Han Ming was strong enough, but he had been seriously injured back then and was far from his peak. He could barely be considered a 6th tribulation subimmortal. It was very difficult for him to suppress the 4 of them. The people from the Nether River Great Cosmos and the Holy Light Great Cosmos came quite early. Fortunately, the heart of the universe fragment hasn't fallen into their hands. We still have a chance. Voices echoed in the void. Then, the void trembled and figures appeared. Figures appeared out of nowhere around the Azure Divine Realm. There were a total of 6 figures. His entire body was surrounded by tribulation light. His aura was shocking and incomparably powerful. It could be seen that 3 of the figures were skeletons. One was humanoid, and the other 2 were beast skeletons. The other 3 figures were shrouded in green light. They wore green robes and looked like immortals. Jade Clear Great Cosmos, Skeleton Great Cosmos, the 3 primogenitors of the Ashen Azure godly realm, and the others recognized the 6 figures. Especially the 3 primogenitors, their hearts sank. These 6 figures were all 9th Tribulation subimmortals. Clearly, the mighty figures behind the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Skeleton Great Cosmos had also deduced this and sent 9th Tribulation subimmortals to arrive first. Damn it, the experts of the Sacred Light Great Cosmos and the Nether River Great Cosmos roared inwardly. Their expressions were ugly, as they were very unhappy. With the arrival of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Skeletal Great Cosmos, the competition had intensified. The difficulty of obtaining the fragment of the heart of the universe had increased greatly. Previously, there had only been 2 competing, but now, there were 4. Since you guys are here, why aren't you attacking? Break the seal first and deal with the remnants of the primitive universe. Then, we can discuss how to distribute the fragment of the heart of the universe. A 9th Tribulation subimmortal from the Nether River Great Cosmos shouted coldly. You don't have to say anything. A middle-aged man from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos replied coldly. Then, he waved his hand, and a green light flew out. It was a terrifying sword light that slashed toward the gap in the seal. Originally, no one had interfered, and the gap in the seal had been slowly recovering. Now, the green sword light slashed down, and the seal shook violently. The gap was torn open, and the gap grew larger. Break the seal first, said an existence from the Skeleton Great Cosmos. A being from the Great Bone Cosmos said and reached out with a bony claw to grab the seal. The 6 9th Tribulation subimmortals were too powerful. They used the gap in the seal as a breakthrough point and kept expanding it. Slowly, the gap expanded to cover the entire seal. Break. Finally, the 6 9th Tribulation subimmortals shouted, and their attacks instantly erupted. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the seal finally couldn't take it anymore. It kept exploding and slowly turned into a rain of light that dissipated into the void. The seal had been completely broken. Many people from the Azure Divine Realm revealed looks of despair. The seal had been broken, and the other party had too many experts. How could they fight? They would only be defeated in the end. Fight it out with them. Many people roared, and even more people burned their origin roots and fought with their lives on the line. Since they couldn't escape death in the end, they might as well die with a bang. Even if they died, they had to make those people from the Outerverse pay the price. In the Tsangqing Godly Realm, more than 1,000 Tsangqing Godly Realm experts were doing their best to conjure the large array formation. It was really effective. In the Sacred Light Great Cosmos and the Underworld River Great Cosmos, some of the weaker cultivators were killed by the array formation. However, the Azure Divine Realm also paid a price. The array shook and suffered a backlash. In an instant, dozens of experts exploded, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. The 6 9th Tribulation subimmortals stood in the void, overlooking the entire battlefield. Among them, the humanoid skeleton from the Bone Great Cosmos looked at Han Ming with disgust. His body is filled with the aura of the universe. Could it be the power of the universe? The will of the universe is unwilling to accept this and still wants to resist. Kill! The humanoid skeleton shouted coldly. He held a bone knife that was golden in color and seemed to be made from the ribs of some kind of creature. The bone knife slashed out, and a terrifying golden blade light slashed at Han Ming. Han Ming's expression changed drastically, and he frantically retreated. His figure flashed rapidly, trying to avoid the blade light. However, this was an attack from a 9th Tribulation subimmortal. It was too strong, far stronger than Han Ming's. Even at his peak, the difference was still huge. The blade light seemed to have locked onto Han Ming. No matter how Han Ming dodged, he couldn't avoid it. In an instant, the blade light appeared not far from Hun Ming. Hun Ming shouted and erupted with all his strength, pushing his combat power to the peak. A round pearl flew out of his forehead. It was the Life Spirit Stone. The Life Spirit Stone rapidly expanded and blocked in front of Hun Ming. Clang! The blade light slashed at the Life Spirit Stone. With a bang, the Life Spirit Stone exploded into pieces, turning into a rain of light that flew back into Hun Ming's body. However, the blade light wasn't blocked. It continued to slash at Hun Ming. The moment the Life Spirit Stone flew out, Hun Ming slashed with all his strength. After the Life Spirit Stone shattered, the 9 Tribulations sword slashed at the blade light. Buzz! The 9 Tribulations sword vibrated violently. Hun Ming's body retreated rapidly, and he vomited blood. The terrifying power of the golden blade light hit Hun Ming's body, but the 9 Tribulations armor blocked it, saving Hun Ming's life. However, the terrifying power still penetrated the 9 Tribulations armor and severely injured Hun Ming. Chapter 5192. Hun Ming was severely injured in one move. This was the battle prowess of a 9th Tribulation subimmortal. Every tribulation would increase one's battle prowess qualitatively. So you have a 9th Tribulation subimmortal weapon. No wonder you can block my attack. The humanoid skeleton from the Great Bones Cosmos said. He didn't continue attacking. It was already embarrassing that he couldn't kill a 6th Tribulation subimmortal in one move. He didn't have the face to continue attacking. However, Hun Ming was already severely injured. The 4 old fellows from the heavenly human race were enough to deal with him. Sure enough, the 4 old fellows from the heavenly human race attacked Hun Ming. Hun Ming was forced to retreat. He could only barely protect himself. If this dragged on, he would be in danger. Join forces with us to kill these remnant immortals. The old man from the Great Bones Cosmos said. The remnant immortals of the old era shouldn't have stayed in this era. They should have disappeared with the destruction of the heart of the universe. What's the point of living until now? I'll send you all on your way. The humanoid skeleton from the Great Bones Cosmos was very domineering. He held a bone blade and attacked the strongest ancestor of the Ashen Azure godly realm. However, just as he was about to attack, he immediately stopped and looked up. Your opponent is me. A long roar came from above. The void cracked open, and a claw reached out and grabbed the humanoid skeleton from the Great Bones Cosmos. It was like a bird's claw. It was like a phoenix's claw. The humanoid skeleton's soul light jumped in his eye sockets as he felt a fatal threat. He shouted and slashed out with his golden bone blade. In an instant, the golden bone blade rapidly expanded and slashed at the claw. However, there was a sound of metal clashing and sparks flying. Then, the humanoid skeleton's figure retreated rapidly. The golden blade in his hand buzzed non-stop, and the soul fire in his eye sockets dimmed. Clearly, the humanoid skeleton was at a disadvantage in this attack. The other 9th Tribulation subimmortals were shocked. To be able to suppress a 9th Tribulation subimmortal from the Great Bones Cosmos, what kind of expert was this? Another remnant immortal. The humanoid skeleton whispered. Whoosh! The void cracked open, and a giant bird appeared. Phoenix. It was a gigantic phoenix. When it spread its wings, it was as large as a continent. It was about to envelop the entire Azure Divine Realm. The great desolate Aeon demon race, the Phoenix race. To think that the Phoenix race still has a remnant immortal alive. Someone whispered. It's you, you're still alive. The old woman in the Azure Divine Realm was pleasantly surprised when she saw the Phoenix. They were all immortal Tao experts from the Great Wastelands continent, so they naturally knew each other. It was just that they had long thought that he had died in battle back then. Unexpectedly, he was still alive. I was lucky enough to survive and hid in the Thousand Monster Mountain. I woke up not long ago. The great desolate Phoenix explained. Bang bang bang, behind the primordial Phoenix, the void continued to explode as more than 10 figures appeared consecutively. All of them were primordial demons and their bodies were as huge as stars. The aura of one of the green bulls was exceptionally terrifying. It was actually not any weaker than the primordial phoenix. Another crippled immortal. 2 primordial chaos demon immortals. The other demons were all sub-immortal existences. It's the primordial demon race of the myriad demon mountain. In the distance, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Back then, in order to save Huang Ling, he had entered the 1,000 Monster Mountain, walked through the 1,000 Monster Path and obtained the Demon King the Arch Runes. He had never thought that there would be so many powerful demons living in the 1,000 Monster Mountain. But it was normal. When Lu Ming entered the 1,000 Monster Mountain, it was still the origin tribulation and the truly powerful demons were all in a deep sleep. It was very similar to the situation in the Azure Divine Realm. Great, I didn't expect the primordial demon race to still have an overlord. Lu Song and the others were quite excited. The primordial demon race was also a living being of the primordial universe. In the primordial continent era, they were known as the 3 strongest races together with the human race and the Wu people. Although they were not as strong as the human race, their overall strength was actually not much weaker. The reason why the human race could suppress the magi and demons was mainly because their peak strength was too strong. The 3 human kings of the human race were invincible and suppressed the world. In the entire demon race, there was only one who could be on par with the 3 human kings of the human race. The Wu people were the same. You guys go and help the human race. Leave these 6 guys to us. The primordial phoenix instructed the other demons. Yes. More than a dozen sub-immortal demons rushed to the Azure Divine Realm to help the human race experts fight the sub-immortal experts of the Sacred Light Great Cosmos and the Nether River Great Cosmos. Without a 9th Tribulation sub-immortal, it would be very difficult to fight against a 9th Tribulation sub-immortal. You want to fight against us with just 2 remnant immortals? The tough bones of the skeleton Great Cosmos were very domineering as they spoke coldly. When I was at my peak, I could swallow the 6 of you in one gulp. The primordial phoenix roared and took the initiative to attack. It spread its wings and enveloped the 3 9th Tribulation sub-immortals of the skeleton Great Cosmos. Roar! The green bull roared and spat out a huge beam of light toward the 3 9th Tribulation sub-immortals of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. An even more terrifying battle erupted. This was an extremely terrifying battle. There were 13 9th Tribulation sub-immortals participating in the battle, including 5 remnant immortals. However, although the primordial demon race had joined in, the situation was still very unfavorable for the primordial universe. There were too many experts in the outerverse. The 2 demon immortals of the primordial demon race were barely able to deal with the 3 9th Tribulation sub-immortals. The more dangerous one was Hun Ming. He had been severely injured by one move and was now facing the 4 great experts of the heavenly human race. He was in imminent danger. The 5 remnant immortals were not having a good time either. A few minutes later. Poof! The green bull was struck by a green sword beam. One of his legs was almost chopped off, and blood splattered everywhere. His immortal body has also degenerated. Today, we will slaughter an immortal. The Jade Clear Great Cosmos expert shouted. Roar! The green bull roared, and his voice shook the sky. If he was at his peak, 3 9th Tribulation sub-immortals would only be a matter of one move. Unfortunately, with the shattering of the primordial universe's core, his cultivation level had dropped. Not only that, but after a long time, his immortal body had also degenerated and was no longer sturdy. Otherwise, even if an immortal Tao existence's cultivation level dropped, their immortal body would still be sturdy and indestructible. A 9th Tribulation sub-immortal would not be able to injure it. But now, their immortal bodies had degenerated and were not much stronger than sub-immortals. From this, it could be seen how much the shattering of the primordial universe's core affected immortal Tao experts. It affected almost all aspects. The green bull was injured and gradually lost. Although the primordial phoenix was stronger, she could only barely contend against 3 9th Tribulation sub-immortals and could not help. It was the same for the 3 primogenitors of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. If this continued, once the green bull was defeated, the other 9th Tribulation sub-immortals would be freed up and the others would be in danger. In the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, the battle between ordinary sub-immortals and origins was even more tragic. With the addition of more than 10 sub-immortals of the demon race, the Ashen Azure Divine Realm barely stabilized the situation, but the situation was still not good. However, there were still people who died from the overheating of their origin roots. Chapter 5193. This was irreversible. They had set up a grand formation, and only by operating the grand formation at full power would they be able to fight against a sub-immortal. However, the backlash from the grand formation was not something that ordinary origins could contend against. Up to now, over 100 origins had died in the Enchanting Divine Realm. In addition, the ordinary sub-immortals of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Bone Great Cosmos had yet to appear. Once they did, the situation would be even worse. Bang bang bang, at this moment, a few more origins could not withstand the backlash and their bodies exploded. Their souls were destroyed. Ninth Uncle. Sixth Uncle. Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the others cried out in grief. They clenched their fists tightly and trembled all over. Some of those who died in battle were their seniors, but they could do nothing as they watched their loved ones die in battle. They wanted nothing more than to charge out and fight. However, they did not lose their minds. They knew that with their combat strength, they would only die even if they charged out. They would not be of any use in the battle. They hated themselves and knew why they were so weak. Why are there no ninth tribulation sub-immortals in the Enchanting Divine Realm? Also, why are there so few sub-immortals? Lu Ming asked. Although he was extremely furious, he managed to control himself. At the same time, he found it very strange. There was not a single ninth tribulation sub-immortal in the Enchanting Divine Realm. Moreover, there were only a dozen sub-immortals, which was much fewer than he had imagined. There were definitely more sub-immortals in the various forbidden lands. In the earliest days, there were ninth tribulation sub-immortals in the Azure Divine Realm. There were also more sub-immortals of other levels. However, over the long years, many sub-immortals failed their tribulations and died under the immortal tribulation. Because the conditions did not allow for it, ninth tribulation sub-immortals could not become immortal. There were only 2 ninth tribulation sub-immortals who forcefully knocked on the immortal tribulation and died in the end. Lu Song explained. It's all because the Enchanting Divine Realm has been sealed. They can't obtain top-grade spiritual herbs to refine their bodies and souls. As a result, their bodies and souls are not strong. Naturally, it's difficult for them to pass the immortal tribulation. At the same time, reciprocity existences don't dare to undergo the immortal's tribulation because they lack resources. Once they undergo the immortal's tribulation, only death awaits them. As a result, many powerful prodigies remain at peak reciprocity for their entire lives. Yao Yi explained. Lu Ming was silent. It had to be said that this was a kind of tragedy. In order to pass the immortal tribulation, both the physical body and the soul were indispensable. However, the Azure Divine Realm was sealed, and it lacked these 2 kinds of spiritual essences. It was too slow to rely on oneself to slowly refine it. It was simply insufficient. As a result, many sub-immortals failed their immortal tribulation and died. Those who could succeed and survive were few and far between. Because of this, the subsequent essences did not dare to undergo the immortal tribulation. In the history of the Azure Divine Realm, it wasn't as if no one had forcefully transcended the immortal tribulation. Those prodigies were unwilling to be trapped at peak reciprocity forever, so they forcefully underwent the immortal tribulation and died in the end. As a result, there were fewer and fewer sub-immortals in the Azure Divine Realm. Up until now, there were only a dozen or so. The situation of the primordial world demons was similar. They were communicating through spiritual sense, but their eyes were fixed on the battlefield. They were becoming more and more nervous. The situation was becoming more and more unfavorable for the primitive universe. Especially Hun Ming and Azure Ox, they were the most dangerous. Puff. Hun Ming was struck in the heart by a heavenly human elder. Even with the protection of the 9 tribulation armor, he could not completely block it. The sword chi entered his body and almost tore his body apart. Hun Ming wanted to retreat, but he was stopped by another heavenly human elder. Hun Ming, I failed to kill you back then. Today, I'll send you on your way. Kill. The 4 heavenly human elders said coldly. Their killing intent was like a knife as they attacked Hun Ming wildly. You failed to kill me back then. Don't even think about killing me today. Hun Ming roared as his energy surged. His body was recovering rapidly. Hun Ming was also a forbidden body. His vitality was extremely strong and his recovery speed was astonishing. Even if he was severely injured, it was impossible to kill him immediately. On the other side, Azure Ox was also in an extremely bad situation. His combat strength was inferior to the Phoenix and the strongest patriarch of the Azure Divine Realm because his cultivation at his peak was far inferior to them. At this moment, he was besieged by 3 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. There were already a dozen wounds on his body. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Some sub-immortal demons howled in grief. Azure Ox was a perfected immortal, but he had fallen to such a state. Was he really going to die here? How many perfected immortals had been killed by sub-immortals since ancient times? It was extremely rare. This was a kind of tragedy. Even if I die, I'll drag you guys down with me. Azure Ox roared. His body was covered in bloody light as his huge body became even more muscular. Swoosh! Blood-red smoke came out of the young man's nose. His combat strength increased tremendously. His 2 ox horns were like heavenly blades as he slashed out. A 9th Tribulation sub-immortal of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos vomited blood and retreated rapidly. Then, with a collision, another expert was sent flying. Azure Ox was going all out. He was burning his immortal blood without any regard for the consequences. The after-effects were huge. Even if he didn't die in this battle, it might be difficult for him to recover to the immortal Tao realm in the future. Damn it, the 3 Jade Clear Great Cosmos experts growled. Their faces were gloomy and fearful. Azure Ox was a true immortal Tao expert when he was at his peak. If he went all out, even if they could kill the young man in the end, it was very likely that the young man would drag 1 or 2 of them down with him. Who would want to be the scapegoat? They weren't the only ones. The other 9th Tribulation sub-immortals also had this concern. Their opponents were all incomplete immortals. It was normal for them to drag them down when they had no way out. Even if they could kill all these incomplete immortals in the end, they would suffer heavy losses. No one wanted to be the scapegoat. Do you guys still want to watch the show? The elder from the Sacred Light Great Cosmos suddenly shouted. Do you think we're fools? If we don't make a move, we can forget about fighting for the fragment of the heart of the universe. An expert from the Bone Great Cosmos also shouted coldly. Many people in the Azure Divine Realm, including Lu Ming, Lu Song, and the others, narrowed their eyes. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. Could there be experts hiding in the dark? I think we should deal with the people in the primitive universe first before deciding on the matter of the fragment of the heart of the universe. Everyone, what do you think? A voice suddenly sounded in the empty void of the universe. Sure. Okay. Several voices responded in the void. The next moment, the void vibrated and many figures appeared. 1, 2, 3, there were a total of more than 10 figures. Every figure was shrouded in a thick layer of light, and their appearances couldn't be seen clearly. It could only be roughly seen that there were people in both the Yang world and the Yin world. They had one thing in common: they were powerful. Every single one of them had a terrifying aura. 9th Tribulation Sub-Immortals. Chapter 5194. The dozen or so figures that appeared behind them were all sub-immortals of the 9th Tribulation. The reason for that was because the auras they emanated were very similar to those of the 9th Tribulation sub-immortals from before. 9th Tribulation sub-immortals were rarely seen. They were all in seclusion, preparing to open the immortal gate. Now that so many of them had appeared, it was truly terrifying. From this, it could be seen how attractive the great desolate universe was. After all, it had been the 11th ranked great cosmos of the Yang realm at its peak. The treasures left behind were too attractive. If it weren't for the fact that true immortals couldn't descend, even true immortals would have come. Although only 2 people from the top 10 great cosmoses of the Yang realm and the Yin realm had come, who knew if there were experts from the great cosmoses of the higher great cosmoses who had come and concealed their identities? No one could say for sure. For example, the dozen or so people were shrouded in light. Their appearances could not be seen clearly. Perhaps there were even stronger universe elites among them. Most of the people behind him didn't come here because they had received a warning from the mighty figures behind them. It was mainly because the battle here had caused too much of a commotion. More than 10 ninth tribulation sub-immortals were risking their lives to fight. Even from the other side of the universe, they could sense that these people had rushed over because of the great battle. After they arrived, they didn't make a move. They originally had the idea of sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight. However, since he had been pointed out, he might as well show himself. The experts of the Sacred Light Great Cosmos, Jade Clear Great Cosmos, Skeleton Great Cosmos, and Styx River Great Cosmos weren't fools. They wouldn't give them a chance to reap the benefits. All of them are ninth tribulation sub-immortals. How could this be? No. Many origins and even sub-immortals of the Azure Divine Realm roared in despair. The 13 ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the 4 universes were already enough to suppress the 5 incomplete immortals of the human and demon races. How could they fight with more than a dozen ninth tribulation sub-immortals? There was no doubt about it. Despair filled the hearts of everyone in the primitive universe. The number of experts in the outerverse was endless. Most importantly, too many great cosmoses had come. In the entire universe ocean, there were tens of thousands of great universes. How many great universes had come here? There were too many. Perhaps this was not all. Who knew if there were any more experts hiding in the dark, or if there were any more experts on the way? How were they supposed to fight? Could it be that the fate of the primitive universe had already been decided? Were they destined to not be able to protect the fragment of the heart of the universe? Were they destined to walk towards the end of the age of chaos? Were they destined to completely decline until they disappeared into the boundless primal chaos? They were unwilling. But what could he do even if he was unwilling? Lu Ming, Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the others clenched their fists. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they wished they could rush out and join the battle. However, they were too weak. What was the point of rushing out? A ninth tribulation sub-immortal could kill them with a single breath. It wouldn't affect the battle at all. Damn it. If the 3 sovereign personages were still alive, how could these people dare to be so arrogant? Lu Song growled, his body trembling. Boom. As soon as Sun Song said that, an explosion occurred somewhere in the void and a massive fist blasted towards one of the 3 powerhouses from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal was shocked. He hurriedly abandoned the green bull and blocked with all his strength. But he couldn't stop it. The attack and defense of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos ninth tribulation sub-immortal crumbled instantly. Then, the huge fist landed on his body. Ah! That person screamed miserably as his body exploded with a bang. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. What? Everyone present, including the sub-immortals and the 5 incomplete immortals, was shocked. What kind of battle prowess was this to be able to destroy a ninth tribulation sub-immortal with one punch? Immortal? Impossible. The true power of the immortal Tao couldn't appear in the current primitive universe. Otherwise, the entire universe would be completely destroyed. Whoosh! That Jade Clear Great Cosmos ninth tribulation sub-immortal wasn't dead yet. His flesh and blood flew into the distance and gathered together. Although he wasn't dead, he was severely injured and his aura was extremely weak. He stared straight ahead, at the place where the fist had appeared. At that moment, a figure appeared in the void. It was a middle-aged man with a burly figure. He stood there casually and gave people the illusion that he was undefeatable. Human Monarch. Human Monarch Xian Yuan. The people of the Azure Divine Realm shouted excitedly. Lu Ming, Lu Song, and the others were also excited and almost jumped up. However, Lu Ming calmed down very quickly. It was the body of the human monarch, not the human monarch. Or rather, the human monarch. Back when he fought with Teak, the human monarch's white bone body was destroyed and his soul entered the human monarch's body. Now that he had reappeared, could it be that the human monarch's body had merged with the human monarch's body? Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Human monarch Xian Yuan. It's the human monarch. The ninth tribulation subimmortals of the outerverse were shocked and their hair stood on end. A chill went from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads. They subconsciously wanted to escape. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Although most of them hadn't seen human monarch Xian Yuan, who hadn't heard of him. He was a peak powerhouse in the entire cosmic sea. Even in the top 10 great cosmoses of the world of the living, like the sacred light great cosmos and the jade clear great cosmos, there were only a handful of people who could match up to human monarch Xian Yuan. It was too easy to kill them. No, it's not the real human monarch. Human monarch Xian Yuan died a long time ago. When he fought with Teak previously, it was only instinctive. He couldn't unleash much power at all. An expert of the bone great cosmos shouted. That's right. The powerhouse behind me has divined that human monarch Xian Yuan has completely fallen and didn't leave behind a trace. In order to seal Teak, he expended a lot of energy. Now that the human monarch's soul has entered his body, it has fallen below the immortal Tao and is nothing to be afraid of. The ninth tribulation subimmortal of the jade clear great cosmos, whose body had been destroyed, also shouted. The human monarch was very strong when he was alive. His cultivation far surpassed ordinary true immortals and had reached the immortal Tao monarch realm. However, no matter how strong he was, as long as he was in the primitive universe, his realm would fall. Everyone was relieved. There was nothing to be afraid of. Those who dare to seize the primitive universe core will be killed without mercy. The human monarch's body spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but there was a terrifying majesty that made people not dare to underestimate him. Human monarch, it's really you. An expert shrouded in multicolored light spoke. His aura was oppressive, and he wasn't afraid at all. He even stepped forward with strong battle intent. Today, I'll catch all of you in one fell swoop. Another expert shrouded in multicolored light stepped forward. He was an expert of the Een world. Everyone, human monarch Xian Yuan has already fallen. Now, only the human monarch's soul has entered his body. His realm is the same as ours, so what's there to be afraid of? Let's attack together and destroy him. An expert of the jade clear great cosmos shouted. That's right, attack. Boom. 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 Powerful existences stepped forward and forced their way toward the human monarch's body. Kill. The human monarch's body, or more accurately, the human monarch, shouted and punched out, targeting one of the experts. Chapter 5195. Boom. The junior human king had entered the body of the master human king, and his strength was astonishing. After a period of adjustment and recovery, he was even stronger than when he fought against D. Quebec. Although the ninth tribulation subimmortal attacked with all his might, he was still no match for the junior human king. Poof! The junior human king's fist directly pierced through the subimmortal's body and tore it apart. However, it was really difficult for a ninth tribulation subimmortal to die. After going through 9 immortal tribulations, it could be said that they had survived 9 death tribulations and had a trace of the characteristics of a true immortal. His body turned into a rain of light and condensed not far away. However, like the one from the jade clear great cosmos, he was severely injured and his aura was weak. Attack, don't let him target one person. Kill. In an instant, at least 6 subimmortals attacked the junior human king together. No matter how strong the junior human king was, he still faced great pressure when facing 6 ninth tribulation subimmortals. If it was one-on-one, he could crush his opponent and then take advantage of the situation to attack wildly. It was not difficult to completely destroy one person. However, When facing a siege from so many people, he could not concentrate his strength to deal with one person. He would be severely disrupted. When he wanted to concentrate his strength to deal with one person, the others would attack to stop him. After all, he had fallen in cultivation. To be precise, he was a ninth tribulation subimmortal. Like the others, he relied on the strength of the human king's body to crush experts of the same level. The main thing was that this was the human king's body and not his own. He could not use it freely and could not use many techniques. He could only use brute force. The 6 ninth tribulation subimmortals temporarily delayed the junior human king. Deal with the others first, then work together to deal with the junior human king. Someone spoke, planning to deal with the other 5 incomplete immortals. Relatively speaking, the other 5 incomplete immortals were easier to deal with because their immortal bodies had already degenerated. It was not difficult to kill them. The junior human king's body was the human king's body. Although it had degenerated a little due to the suppression of teak, the human king was too strong when he was alive. His body was tough and indestructible. It was too difficult to destroy it. They could only kill the other incomplete immortals first and then concentrate their strength to deal with the junior human king. They could use soul attacks to destroy the junior human king's soul. The other subimmortals were about to attack and help the Jade clear Great Cosmos to destroy the 5 incomplete immortals. However, at this moment, all the 9th tribulation subimmortals suddenly stopped as they felt a sense of danger. Who? All of a sudden, a 9th tribulation subimmortal shouted and slapped a palm toward a certain spot in the void. Boom! The void exploded and turned into chaos. A palm stretched out from the chaos. It was a woman's palm. The palm was pure white and her fingers were like scallions. It was extremely beautiful. The pure white palm collided with the palm of the 9 tribulation subimmortal, and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. With the 2 palms as the center, the void within 100 million li exploded. The destructive force howled, and everything was in chaos. The 9th tribulation subimmortal grunted and retreated rapidly. One could see that his palm, including his entire arm, was covered in cracks like porcelain. Puff! That person spat out a large mouthful of blood, his face filled with shock. The other subimmortals were also shocked. Who was it? Could it be another crippled immortal? His battle prowess was so terrifying. Ahead, the primal chaos surged, and a figure appeared. It was a woman. Her long black dress fluttered in the wind. Her appearance was exceptional, and her style was peerless. Senior Fei Huang. Lu Ming could not help but exclaim. It was actually Fei Huang. The one who attacked just now was actually Fei Huang. She had injured a 9th tribulation subimmortal with 1 palm. Her combat strength was simply unimaginable. During the Heaven Destroyer era, Fei Huang's combat strength was barely comparable to the origin power. At that time, Senior Fei Huang was just a clone. Her main body had been cultivating in a mysterious place. This must be Senior Fei Huang's true body, but her strength is too strong. Lu Ming's mind raced, but he was still shocked. Of course, he did not know that Fei Huang and Tang Feng had been cultivating in a forbidden land for the past 10,000 years. They had experienced death tribulations, but their improvement was also great, and they had continuously broken through. Fei Huang? Lu Song and the others were surprised. They had never heard of this name before. I know a senior in the Eastern Universe. Lu Ming quickly explained. 8th Tribulation Subimmortal. The 9th Tribulation Subimmortals of the Outerverse completely covered Fei Huang with their spiritual senses and immediately saw through her cultivation. She was only an 8th Tribulation Subimmortal. This was beyond their expectations. In their opinion, the person who injured a 9th Tribulation Subimmortal with 1 palm was at least a 9th Tribulation Subimmortal or even a broken immortal. Otherwise, how could they have such combat strength? They did not expect that it was just an 8th Tribulation Subimmortal. This was a little terrifying. Especially the 9th Tribulation Subimmortal who was injured by Fei Huang just now. His face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. It's just an 8th tribulation subimmortal. No matter how strong she is, how strong can she be? Kill. The other 9th tribulation subimmortal was enveloped by 9 cold halos. He was an expert from the Een world. He held a battle axe in his hand and swung it at Fei Huang. Fei Huang stood there motionless, and she had no intention of fighting back. In an instant, the axe approached Fei Huang. Seeing that it was about to hit her, Fei Huang still did not move. Lu Ming, Lu Song, and the others could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. Even the 3 primogenitors of the Azure Divine Realm and the 2 demonic immortals of the demon race felt their hearts skip a beat. They did not know Fei Huang, but they could tell that Fei Huang was a living being of the primitive universe. In the primitive universe, there was actually an 8th tribulation subimmortal in addition to them. This was beyond their expectations. One had to know that in the past, the primitive universe was in ruins, and the laws of order were chaotic. The cultivation conditions were too poor. Although it later recovered, it faced the Great Tribulation. In other words, it was simply a miracle to be able to cultivate to an 8th tribulation subimmortal in such a cultivation environment. There was also Hun Ming. They could tell that Hun Ming should be a 7th tribulation subimmortal when he was at his peak. These people of the later generations were shockingly talented. But why didn't they dodge? Why didn't they fight back? They were anxious and wanted to help, but how could they make it in time? Even if they could make it in time, they were entangled and could not even take care of themselves. How could they have the strength to spare? Clang! The sound of a sword rang through the void as if it came from ancient times. Then, a sword light flew out from behind Fei Huang. It was like a flying immortal. It was dazzling, fast, and unstoppable. Clang! The sword light slashed on the axe, and the axe shook violently. Countless tiny sword chi flowed along the axe and rushed toward the 9th tribulation subimmortal. The 9th tribulation subimmortal's expression changed drastically. He realized that he could not hold the battle axe. This battle axe was a 9th tribulation subimmortal weapon. It was connected to his life and had gone through 9 immortal tribulations together. It was simply a part of his body. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to escape. However, the power of that sword light was too strong. It was useless even if he tried his best to resist. With a buzz, the battle axe flew out horizontally. However, the sword light did not stop and slashed down on the 9th tribulation subimmortal's head. Poof! The sword light flashed, and the 9th tribulation subimmortal's body stiffened. His eyes were filled with disbelief. I can't accept this, the 9th tribulation subimmortal roared. Before he finished speaking, endless sword chi rushed out of his body and tore him into pieces. His origin root and soul were also turned into nothingness in the sword chi. Chapter 5196. His body and soul were destroyed. A 9th tribulation subimmortal was killed by a single sword strike, his body and soul destroyed. Impossible? Everyone's first reaction was disbelief. It was impossible. But the truth was right in front of them, and they had no choice but to believe it. This was a 9th tribulation subimmortal who had survived the 9 immortal tribulations. He was only one step away from transcending and becoming an immortal. But now, he was killed by a single sword strike. This was the first 9th tribulation subimmortal to die since the start of this battle. Previously, Junior Human King had not been able to kill a 9th tribulation subimmortal. Although he had torn the 9th tribulation subimmortal apart, he had not completely killed him. But now, a sword light had completely obliterated a 9th tribulation subimmortal. Some of the 9th tribulation subimmortals in the outerverse felt a chill in their hearts. At this moment, they saw the true appearance of that sword light. It was a long sword. The sword was simple and unadorned, and it was filled with tribulation light. This was a 9th tribulation subimmortal weapon. Whoosh! The long sword flew into a person's hand. This was a young man in his 20s. He had a tall and straight figure, sharp eyebrows, and bright eyes. There was an indescribable domineering aura between his brows. This person walked step by step through the air from behind Fei Huang. Sword Ancestor, it's the Sword Ancestor. Lu Ming couldn't help but get excited. How could he not know this person, although it was the first time he had seen him in person? But he had long known this person's appearance. The Sword Ancestor, Tang Feng, was Xian Yanqing's father in his previous life. Speaking of which, he could be considered his father-in-law. Ever since he came into contact with the people of the Heaven Destroyer, he often heard people mention the Sword Ancestor. When everyone mentioned him, their faces were full of reverence. Because he was a legend. Like Lu Ming, he walked out of a small world and rose against the heavens, establishing the Heaven Destroyer to fight against the Heavenly Palace. It had to be said that the situation at that time was even more difficult than the situation that Lu Ming faced at the beginning. Because at that time, Tang Feng, Fei Huang, and the others had no backing and no one to support them. They could only fight against the Heavenly Palace alone. Unlike Lu Ming, at least he had the Heaven Destroyer behind him. Therefore, the Sword Ancestor Tang Feng also paid an unimaginable price. Of his 2 wives, one was dead and the other was injured. His 2 daughters had also died on the battlefield. If it weren't for the reincarnation substance, Xian Yanqing and Tang Jun wouldn't have been able to reappear. Lu Ming had always admired this legendary figure, but he had never been able to see him in person. Who would have thought that they would meet under such circumstances? Furthermore, he had managed to kill a 9th tribulation sub-immortal right from the start, shocking everyone present. Taboo's Sword Ancestor, Tang Feng. The 4 elders of the heavenly human tribe turned pale with fright. Their eyes were filled with fear. They instinctively feared the Sword Ancestor. Especially now, he could actually kill a 9 tribulation sub-immortal. This was simply unbelievable. The last time he saw Tang Feng was clearly a 5 tribulation sub-immortal. How many years had it been? How could he have improved so quickly? They were not mistaken. The aura that Tang Feng emitted had clearly reached the level of a 9th tribulation sub-immortal. Back when he was a 5th tribulation sub-immortal, his battle prowess was already shocking. Although they were 7th tribulation sub-immortals, they were no match for him. Now that he had become a 9th tribulation sub-immortal, how strong would he be? They were so shocked that their attacks were a little chaotic, giving Han Ming a chance to catch his breath. Is this the taboo body that appeared after me? It's really ridiculously strong. Even Han Ming sighed. This kind of battle prowess seemed to be, possibly, definitely, stronger than him. Today, all of you shall be annihilated. The Sword Ancestor, Tang Feng, only had this one sentence when he appeared. Before he finished speaking, he attacked again. Another dazzling sword light slashed toward another 9th tribulation sub-immortal. This 9th tribulation sub-immortal was shocked. He instantly raised his strength to the maximum and dodged with all his might. At the same time, he also put up 36 layers of defense. However, the sword light seemed to have locked onto him. No matter how he dodged, it was useless. Poof! In the next moment, he was hit by the sword light. All 36 layers of defense were pierced through. In the end, the sword light slashed on his armor. The armor only whispered for an instant before it was pierced through. This person screamed as his body flew out horizontally and kept vomiting blood. One could see sword chi constantly rushing out of his body. His flesh and blood splattered everywhere. It was a tragic sight. However, in the end, he resisted and did not die. Although he did not die, he was already extremely weak and his injuries were unbelievably serious. An 8th tribulation sub-immortal armament armor was pierced through. Someone's expression was extremely solemn. This time, although a 9th tribulation sub-immortal was not completely destroyed, it was still shocking. This was because this 9th tribulation sub-immortal's full defense was useless. Even an 8th tribulation sub-immortal armament armor was pierced through. It was terrifying. With another sword strike, this person would definitely die. Lu Ming, Lu Song, and the others, as well as the origin of the Azure Divine Realm and the other sub-immortals, were all excited. Tang Feng was so powerful. Could he block the people from the outerverse and protect a fragment of the heart of the universe? Gather together. Don't let him defeat us one by one. Someone shouted. The remaining ninth tribulation sub-immortals gathered together and merged their auras, preparing to join forces to fight Tang Feng. However, one person did not move. This was a figure about 3 meters tall. He had a human form and was shrouded in a mysterious light. His appearance could not be seen clearly. He had attacked together with the other ninth tribulation sub-immortals, but he did not attack or move. He just stood there quietly. It seemed that he had no intention of attacking, nor did he speak. Interesting, really interesting. I didn't expect that there would be such an expert in this broken great universe. I didn't come here in vain. At this moment, the figure spoke. His eyes were like 2 stars, shining brightly as he stared at Tang Feng. Then, he walked toward Tang Feng step by step. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from this person. It was far more terrifying than the other ninth tribulation sub-immortals. The light on his body also retracted, revealing his true appearance. This was an excessively handsome young man. He was 3 meters tall and covered in black armor. There was a strange mark between his eyebrows that looked like a flower petal. Judging from his aura, there was no doubt that this person came from the netherworld. Xue Higan, he is Xue Higan. After seeing this person's appearance, someone exclaimed. It's really Xue Higan. Yes, it's him. It's really Xue Higan. He actually dared to come to the primitive universe. Even the ninth tribulation sub-immortals from the sacred light Great Cosmos, Jade Clear Great Cosmos, and Bones Great Cosmos exclaimed. There was no other reason. Xue Higan was too famous and too powerful. This person came from the Permitha Great Cosmos in the Een world. The Permitha Great Cosmos was ranked 3rd among the tens of thousands of great cosmoses in the Een world. Its overall strength was much stronger than the Bones Great Cosmos and Sacred Light Great Cosmos. Since Xue Higan dared to use the name Permitha, one could imagine how extraordinary he was. He was known as the #1 sub-immortal in the Permitha Great Cosmos. Not only that, but he could also be ranked in the top 20 sub-immortals in the entire universe C. He was the top 20 strongest beings under the immortal Tao. Chapter 5197. Xue Higan was known as one of the top 20 most powerful beings under the immortal path. That was the entire cosmic sea, including the Yang realm and the Een realm. That was terrifying. The Yang realm had the azure sky universe, while the Een realm had the yellow sky universe. They were at the peak of the Yang realm and the Een realm, respectively. The azure sky race and the yellow sky race were extremely ancient. No one knew how long they had existed. They were extremely talented, and no other race in the cosmic sea could compare with them. According to ancient legends, the 2 races were beings born in the Een Yang realm and were closely related to the cosmic sea. In the past, the strongest group of people had been occupied by the azure sky race and the yellow sky race. Very few people in the other great universes could compete with the 2 celestial races. Most of the strongest people under the immortal path were occupied by the 2 celestial races. Xue Higan could be ranked in the top 20, which showed how strong he was. He would definitely become a king of the immortal path in the future. The 9 tribulation sub-immortals of the outerverse were delighted. With Xue Higan attacking, Tang Feng had nothing to worry about. Leave him to me. You guys go and deal with the others. Xue Higan stared at Tang Feng with a burning flame in his eyes as if he was staring at his prey. Kill. Tang Feng was very domineering. He didn't want to waste time talking and directly attacked Xue Higan. Red Spider Lily, Immortal Slaying Blade. Xue Higan shouted and waved his hand. A terrifying blade light burst out. The sword light and the blade light seemed to break the great universe and collided in the chaos. Suddenly, endless sword chi and blade light swept in all directions. Retreat. The other 9 tribulation sub-immortals were shocked and didn't dare to get too close. Even with their strength, they were afraid of being swept in. Boom. Boom. The speed of Tang Feng and Xue Higan's exchange was too fast. They had exchanged dozens of moves in an instant. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Especially the experts of the Outerverse, who were shocked. Tang Feng could really fight with Xue Higan. It was terrifying, shocking, and unbelievable. Was this still a broken great universe? The human race is really terrifying. 3 human kings were born in the past, and they rose quickly and almost rushed into the top 10 of the Yang realm. This race can't be left alive. They must be wiped out. That's right. Today, we must kill them. Work together and kill the others first before killing that fellow. We have to eliminate him. Otherwise, he might become another sovereign personage in the future. The powerhouses of the Outerverse quickly reached an agreement, and then they all attacked with all their might. The 3 primogenitors of the Azure Godly Realm and the 2 incomplete immortals of the Fiend race had been fighting for a long time. They were all injured, their bodies covered in wounds, blood flowing continuously. As for the junior human king, he could barely hold his own against the 6 Nine Tribulation subimmortals. His physical body was unparalleled, but his soul was not that strong. When the junior human king was at his peak, his soul was naturally incomparably powerful. However, in the past few years, his realm had already dropped. Moreover, his soul had been severely damaged during the battle with Teak, and it was still far from recovering. Out of the 6 experts who were attacking him, 2 of them were experts in soul attacks. This was a weakness for the junior human king. Apart from them, there were 5 other sub-immortals who had undergone 9 tribulations. Originally, there were 7 of them. After Tang Feng attacked, 1 died and 1 was injured. The injured one would not be able to make a move for the time being. Only 5 of them could make a move. These 5 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals had their eyes on Fei Huang and were closing in on her. Kill! The 5 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals shouted and charged toward Fei Huang together. Fei Huang was fearless. Boundless demonic chi erupted as she fought against the 5 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals. What was shocking was that Fei Huang was able to temporarily resist the 5 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals with her 8th Tribulation sub-immortal cultivation. The people of the Azure Godly Realm were overjoyed. Could it be that they could stop the experts of the Outerverse today? However, their joy immediately turned into anger. This was because the situation on the battlefield had changed again. In the void, a few more figures appeared, all of them emitting an astonishing aura. 9th Tribulation sub-immortals, another 9th Tribulation sub-immortal. 1, 2, there were a total of 12. No, many people shouted, their faces full of despair. The experts of the Outerverse were simply endless. Previously, more than 29th Tribulation sub-immortals had appeared. Now, another 12 had appeared. How could they fight? At this time, even the 3 primogenitors of the Azure Godly Realm and the 2 demon immortals of the Fiend race were in despair. More than 39th Tribulation sub-immortals, this was an extremely terrifying number. In some weak great cosmoses, there were no living beings of the immortal Tao overseeing them. A 9th Tribulation sub-immortal was the ruler of a great cosmos and could be called the king of the great cosmos. Now, they were like cabbages on the side of the road, appearing one after another. It could only be said that the treasures left behind by the primitive universe were too attractive. Even 9th Tribulation sub-immortals could not sit still. These 9th Tribulation sub-immortals could not be from the same great cosmos. It was very difficult to mobilize so many 9th Tribulation sub-immortals in the same great cosmos. These 9th Tribulation sub-immortals came from different great cosmoses, both the Yang world and the Yin world. At this time, they all had the same idea, which was to get rid of the experts of the primitive universe. Some people had arrived earlier and had been hiding in the dark and did not make a move. Some people had just arrived. However, they could not help but want to make a move now. Kill! Among the 12 new 9th Tribulation sub-immortals, 2 of them shouted and charged toward the junior human king. This way, 8 9th Tribulation sub-immortals surrounded the junior human king. Moreover, these 2 9th Tribulation sub-immortals were also proficient in soul attacks. As a result, the junior human king was even more passive. His soul was continuously attacked, and one could see wisps of light rain dissipating from his body. This was a symptom of part of his soul being scattered. If not for the junior human king's soul being tempered and resilient, he would have been able to withstand it. If it were anyone else, their soul would have dissipated long ago. Bam! Bam! Another two people stepped out. They charged toward the Azure Divine Realm's ancestor Wu Nian and the demon race's Phoenix. Ancestor Wu Nian and the Phoenix were originally fighting 3 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals alone. They were very passive and were at a disadvantage. Now that a Ninth Tribulation subimmortal joined in, their situation immediately became very bad. The Phoenix let out a long cry. One of its wings was pierced by a black and gold spear, and blood, flesh, and feathers flew everywhere. The Azure Divine Realm's ancestor Wu Nian was also not a match. He was injured by a battle sword and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. The new Ninth Tribulation subimmortal made a move, completely changing the situation of the battle. There were still 8 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals who had not made a move. They scanned the battlefield, glancing at the battle between the Phoenix and the 5 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals, the battle between the 2 patriarchs of the Azure Divine Realm, and the battle between the Azure Bull. They were all fighting one against many. If more experts joined in, the situation would be one-sided. You alone can't do it. Come with a few more. A loud shout came from the depths of the void far away. Then, the sound of a sword rang out. A few terrifying sword lights burst out and slashed toward the remaining 8 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals. It was the sword progenitor. Chapter 5198. The taboo sword ancestor, Tang Feng, slashed out a terrifying sword light while fighting Xue Higan. He wanted to drag the remaining 8 subimmortals into the battle by himself. He knew very well that the others would definitely die if they couldn't withstand the attacks of the 8 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals. I'm your opponent. Xue Higan roared. Tang Feng had underestimated him. He wanted to drag others into the battle while fighting with him. However, after the battle, he felt more and more pressure. He felt that the other party's sword was endless, and gradually, he was at a disadvantage. It was unbelievable. Who was he? He was the top expert under the immortal path in the Nirvana universe, and he was ranked in the top 10 among the subimmortals in the entire Een world. Apart from those freaks from the Yellow Sky race, he was almost invincible under the immortal path. But now, there was someone in this ruined universe who could suppress him. He roared and tried his best to turn the situation around, but it was useless. The 8 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals attacked together and blocked Tang Feng's sword light. What an arrogant person. We'll kill you first. A Ninth Tribulation subimmortal snorted. Yes, we can get rid of this person first. Another person nodded. Those who could reach the Ninth Tribulation subimmortal level were not ordinary people. They were all peerless geniuses when they were young, and they were all arrogant. Now, Lu Ming was attacking them while fighting Xue Higan, which made them very unhappy. Some of them changed their target and planned to join forces with Xue Higan to get rid of Tang Feng. Swish. Swish. At the same time, 5 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals rushed into the battle between Tang Feng and Xue Higan and attacked Tang Feng. Xue Higan's face was gloomy, but he didn't refuse their help. He knew very well that he couldn't do anything to Tang Feng by himself, so he had to join forces with others. With the addition of 5 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals, the pressure on Tang Feng increased greatly. He could not help but slow down his attacks. There were still 3 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals who didn't move. Bam! One of them made a move, joining the battle group that was besieging Flying Phoenix. In this way, there were as many as 6 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals surrounding Fei Huang. No matter how powerful Fei Huang was, she was no match for them. After all, she was only an 8th Tribulation subimmortal. She had undergone one tribulation less than the others. It was already heaven-defying for her to be able to take on 5 opponents at once. That was an extreme display of power. In a short period of time, one's battle prowess had been pushed to the extreme. As time passed, Flying Phoenix would definitely lose. At this moment, another ninth tribulation sub-immortal joined the battle, and the balance was instantly broken. Two sword lights slashed towards Fei Huang's face and the back of her head. Above his head, a pagoda came crashing down. Behind him, a long spear pierced towards him. A saber and a spear were aimed at Fei Huang's dantian. Fei Huang lightly shouted. Demonic chi soared into the sky, and a rain of flowers filled the sky. They turned into boundless sword light and slashed in all directions. At the same time, she waved her hands continuously, and countless palm imprints blasted out, shaking the universe and the sky. The power was so strong that even a ninth tribulation sub-immortal would be shocked. If it was a one-on-one battle, she could instantly injure a ninth tribulation sub-immortal. But after all, there were 6 of them. 5 of them were blocked, but a saber light broke through Fei Huang's defense and almost cut her in half. Fei Huang was sent flying. Her face was a little pale, and a terrifying wound had appeared on her chest. On the wound, there were countless tiny saber lights that were invisible to the naked eye, constantly destroying Fei Huang's body. Fei Huang circulated her forbidden origin power to get rid of these saber lights and quickly healed her injured body. She's been hit by my extinction saber. It won't be so easy to recover. Let's completely destroy her in one go. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal holding the saber shouted. His saber light pierced the sky and launched a crazy attack. The other 5 people did the same. Their terrifying attacks almost drowned Fei Huang. Fei Huang could only dodge with all her might. For a time, it was difficult for her to fight back. The other 2 ninth tribulation sub-immortals who had not attacked also attacked. One of them joined the battle and attacked the green bull. The other joined the battle and attacked the white-haired old woman of the Azure Divine Realm. The 2 of them were already no match for her. At this moment, it was completely one-sided. Moo! The green bull roared. One of its legs was cut off, and blood stained the battlefield. The white-haired old woman's hair was disheveled. Her chest had been punched through. Die! The experts besieging them attacked crazily. This time, the green bull's head was cut off. Someone punched down and blasted the green bull's head. No! The phoenix of the devil race roared, wanting to help. However, she was already surrounded by 4 ninth tribulation sub-immortals and was in danger. At this moment, she was distracted and almost lost her head. The others were also powerless to help. It was too tragic. Although the people in the primitive universe had great battle prowess, there were too few of them. Facing too many experts, each of them was besieged by many experts. It was difficult for them to protect themselves, let alone rescue others. Damn it, Lu Song, Lu Ming, and the others clenched their fists tightly. Their bodies trembled and their eyes were red. They hated that their cultivation was too low and they hated that they could not participate in the battle. I want to participate in the battle. I want to participate in the battle. Human sovereign broken sword, awaken and give me power. Lu Ming shouted and took out the human sovereign broken sword, hoping that it would awaken. Unfortunately, no matter how much power he injected, the human sovereign broken sword did not respond at all. Moo! At this moment, a bull's roar resounded in the universe. Although the green bull's head had been cut off, as long as his soul was not destroyed, he would not die. His head was reborn and his battle blood boiled. He suddenly rushed out and knocked away a ninth tribulation sub-immortal. The chest of the ninth tribulation sub-immortal collapsed and even his armor was shattered. His bones and flesh flew everywhere. He was severely injured. However, the attacks of the other 2 all landed on the green bull and tore his body into pieces. However, the green bull was still not dead and his body was quickly regenerating. The primitive universe will rise. Kill! I will kill all of you, the green bull roared and ignored the attacks of the others. He only stared at the injured person. Swish! The green bull turned into a beam of green light and rushed toward the injured ninth tribulation sub-immortal. The green light that filled the sky drowned that person. Come and save me. The terrified voice of the ninth tribulation subimmortal came from the green light. How dare you, kill! The other two attacked the green bull with their ultimate attacks. That area had been completely destroyed. Boom! Then, there was an earth-shattering explosion, followed by a mournful scream. The scream came from the injured ninth tribulation subimmortal. That ninth tribulation subimmortal was completely killed. However, the green bull also paid the price with his life. His soul had been torn apart and obliterated. Boom! The green light suddenly surged and the two ninth tribulation subimmortals quickly retreated and withdrew from the green light. One of them was in tatters and had obviously been severely injured. He's finally dead. So what if he's an immortal? He's still going to die. A ninth tribulation subimmortal snorted. The green light that the green ox had transformed into quickly dissipated. In the end, only an illusory figure was left floating in the air. Green Bull. The Phoenix roared. Chapter 5199. The Phoenix roared, her voice full of anger and sorrow. She knew that Green Ox had fallen. This was just a phantom, a remnant mark of Green Ox. Goodbye, old friend. The phantom of Green Ox glanced at the Phoenix, then quickly dimmed and was about to disappear completely. I believe that the universe will rise again and return to its original prosperity. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it, successors. I'll leave the primitive universe to you. The blue ox's final voice reverberated through the universe. His phantom completely dissipated, vanishing from the world. At this moment, the universe shook and the heavenly river dimmed, as if it was mourning the fall of an immortal. Ah! The Phoenix roared and launched a crazy counterattack. Her wings were like heavenly blades, sending a ninth tribulation subimmortal flying and vomiting blood. But she was only one person after all. She was attacked by others and was injured. The sky was filled with phoenix feathers. Everyone else in the Urwild's universe felt their blood boil as well, and the Urwild's demon folk roared with all their might. Human King's broken sword, wake up! Aren't you the sword of the Human King? Now that the universe is facing a critical moment, why don't you wake up and take me to fight? Lu Ming growled. Buzz! This time, the Human King's broken sword reacted. Sword, come! Sword ancestor Tang Fang's long hair fluttered like a fiend god. With a roar, all the swords in the universe trembled as if they were on a pilgrimage. At this moment, as long as it was in the universe, no matter where it was, as long as it was a sword, it would tremble slightly. What's going on? Why is my battle sword acting strangely? Many outerverse powerhouses in various parts of the universe were shocked and all of them were trying to control their swords. Even the subimmortals were like that. The broken sword in Lu Ming's hand trembled even more violently, then it flew out of his hand, broke the void, and instantly appeared in sword ancestor Tang Fang's hand. After the broken sword appeared in Tang Fang's hand, it erupted with a shocking aura and a terrifying sword light slashed out. Shui Bai-en and the others who were besieging him quickly retreated to avoid the sword light. A broken immortal weapon. Do you want the universe to be completely destroyed? Shui Bai-en's face was gloomy. At the same time, a sword appeared in his hand. It was also a broken immortal weapon. A terrifying aura emerged from the saber. Boom! The aura of the Human King's broken sword collided with the aura of the battle saber. The universe rumbled. Everyone's expression changed. Even if it was a broken immortal weapon, if it was pushed to the limit, its power would still be terrifying. The broken great desolate universe might not be able to withstand it. Therefore, although a small number of people had brought broken immortal weapons along, such as Wang Gu of the Nether River Great Cosmos, they hadn't used them except to break the seal of the Azure Divine Realm because they were afraid of this. Humph. The sword ancestor snorted and swept out his sword, forcing the others to retreat. Then, he turned into a sword light and rushed out of the encirclement. After he broke out of the encirclement, he rushed towards the Ashen Cyan Immortal Realm and landed on the highest mountain in the Ashen Cyan Immortal Realm. In an instant, Tang Fang's aura seemed to have fused together with the Azure Divine Realm. His aura suddenly grew stronger. Following that, a small pagoda appeared in Tang Feng's hand. It was the size of a thumb, as if it was cast from fine jade. Bang! Tang Feng clenched his fingers and the small pagoda was crushed. The next moment, a continent appeared out of thin air and rapidly grew in size. In the end, it merged with the Azure Divine Realm. There was a gap on this continent that was exactly the same as the gap on the edge of the Azure Divine Realm. It was perfectly glued together. A fragment of the heart of the universe. It's a fragment of the heart of the universe. He also has one in his hand, Lin Feng said. Many people shouted. The others were shocked. Tang Feng also had a fragment of the heart of the universe. At this moment, he took out 2 fragments of the heart of the universe and merged them together. All the hearts of the universe have appeared. Lu Ming whispered. The people of the Outerverse had obtained 2 fragments. Now, Tang Feng took out one and the other was the Azure Divine Realm. The last fragment should be the Great Desolate Ring, which was in Lu Ming's hands. A total of 5 fragments were present. Boom! The 2 fragments of the heart of the universe merged, and the ancient aura it emitted became even stronger. Tang Feng's aura merged with the fragment of the heart of the universe and became even stronger. It was like a billowing smoke signal. He wants to knock on the immortal pass and break through to the immortal realm. A 9th tribulation sub-immortal of the Outerverse exclaimed. This guy is crazy to knock on the immortal pass in the middle of a battle. There are only 2 fragments of the heart of the universe. It's not complete at all. The laws and order are chaotic. It's impossible for him to break through successfully. A 9th tribulation sub-immortal spoke one after another. How could it be so easy to knock on the immortal pass and become an immortal? Knocking on the immortal pass could be said to be more dangerous than the 9th level immortal tribulation. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many 9th level sub-immortals who were stuck at this step. In fact, in history, countless 9th level sub-immortals had fallen at this step and turned into ashes. Moreover, that was when the environment was perfect and they were fully prepared. Now, in an environment like the primitive universe, how could one knock on the immortal pass? It was impossible. Don't be careless. Stop him with all your strength. Shui Bian said. He didn't know why, but he instinctively felt danger from Tang Feng. He himself was a peerless genius among peerless geniuses. He knew that people at this level couldn't be measured by common sense. They could often turn the impossible into the possible and create miracles. Although the probability was very small, he still wanted to destroy it in the cradle. Shui Bian activated the broken immortal weapon and charged toward Tang Feng. Tang Feng waved the human king's broken sword, and the sword and saber clashed. The world rumbled and the universe shook. Fortunately, Tang Feng was standing on the fragment of the heart of the universe. At this moment, the 2 fragments of the heart of the universe had merged. Most of the power was absorbed by the heart of the universe, so it didn't cause the universe to shake. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the saber in Shui Bian's hand. It was indomitable and had a strong and incomparably domineering aura. It was the figure of the previous owner of the saber. This voice stretched out a big hand and grabbed toward Tang Feng. However, at this moment, a figure also appeared on the human king's broken sword. Father! The junior human king roared. This figure was exactly the same as the human king's physical body. It was the human king Xian Yuan. However, this wasn't the will left behind by the human king Xian Yuan. It was just the power of the human king's sword that had awakened. Because it often accompanied the human king by Xian Yuan's side, its form was the same as the human king's. The 2 figures collided in the air. The 2 broken immortal weapons were in a deadlock, resisting each other. Kill. Stop him from breaking through. Shui Bian charged toward Tang Feng. The other 5 9th tribulation sub-immortals also charged toward Tang Feng to stop him from breaking through. Get lost. Tang Feng shouted coldly. He held his sword and slashed out a shocking sword chi, sweeping away Shui Bian and the other 5 experts. Shui Bian was very strong, not much weaker than Tang Feng. He broke through the layers of sword chi and charged toward Tang Feng. The 6 experts besieged Tang Feng, blocking his rising aura. Join us. The 2 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals who had besieged the Green Bull previously also charged toward Tang Feng. It became 8 experts besieging Tang Feng. Chapter 5200. 8 great experts were besieging Tang Feng. With Xue Higan around, Tang Feng's breakthrough was blocked. It was too far-fetched to fight 8 experts and Xue Higan alone. It would be difficult for him to even protect himself, let alone break through. After a few moves, Tang Feng was injured by Xue Higan, and his body was covered in blood. In fact, Tang Feng's situation was not the worst. The others were in a worse situation. Everyone was injured and the situation was quite bad. Stop them. You must stop them and let Tang Feng break through. Only by breaking through and becoming an immortal will the primitive universe have hope, Fei Huang shouted and fought with all her strength, wanting to kill Tang Feng. She was almost at Dao transformation. Her body was covered in blood and her origin energy was boiling. She repelled the attacks of 2 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals in succession. In the end, she paid a certain price and finally rushed out of the encirclement. She approached Tang Feng and blocked the 2 for him. On the other side, the junior human king roared and ignored his defense. He used his human king body to block the attacks of the other party. He also rushed out of the encirclement and approached Tang Feng, wanting to stop the others for Tang Feng. The 3 primogenitors of the Azure Divine Realm and the Phoenix were unable to break out of the encirclement. They were in a precarious situation and could follow in the footsteps of the Azure Ox at any time. Unfortunately, they were too few in number. Fei Huang and the junior human king approached Tang Feng, and the dozen Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals who were besieging them also rushed over. They were still in a very passive situation. I want to kill the enemy. Lu Song, Yao Yi and the others shouted. They could not wait to join the battle. Lu Ming's blood was boiling. His battle blood was burning. At this moment, the blood crystal in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness suddenly emitted a bright light. Then, it exploded with a bang and turned into a whistling energy that merged into Lu Ming's body. This energy was too strong. A layer of blood-red light floated on the surface of Lu Ming's body. At the same time, a voice sounded in Lu Ming's mind. For the primitive universe, for the human race, I will die on the battlefield. Now, I will lend my remaining power and soul power to you. Kill. As the voice fell, Lu Ming felt that his soul was wrapped by a layer of powerful soul power. The Lord of the Taishang Immortal Dynasty. Lu Ming understood that this was the Lord of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty. In the Grand Supreme Immortal capital, the Emperor of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty refined a great enemy and left behind a blood crystal for himself. Within the blood crystal, there was even a strand of the remnant soul of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty's Emperor. Lu Ming once guessed that the Emperor of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty might be able to borrow this opportunity to be reborn. But now, the ruler of the Taishang Immortal Dynasty destroyed his own blood crystal, lending his strength to Lu Ming, wanting to participate in the war. He had cut off all his escape routes. In an instant, Lu Ming understood this point. His heart was filled with sorrow and anger. Kill. Lu Ming roared and took a step forward. The void directly exploded. In the next moment, Lu Ming directly appeared in the battlefield of the 9 Tribulation sub-immortals. He threw a punch at a 9th Tribulation sub-immortal who was besieging Thoughtless Ancestor. This was a 9th Tribulation sub-immortal from the Holy Light Cosmos. This punch was filled with incomparably terrifying power. Lu Ming felt that his punch could shatter and obliterate everything. This was the remnant power of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty's Emperor. What kind of person was the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty's Emperor? At his peak, he was the king of the Immortal Tao. Even the blood crystal he left behind was extremely terrifying. The 9th Tribulation sub-immortal from the Holy Light Cosmos was shocked. How could he care about attacking Thoughtless Ancestor? He resisted with all his strength. Heavenly Profound Sacred Armor, 10,000 Laws Sacred Sword. That person roared madly as a huge armor condensed on his body, tightly wrapping around his body. At the same time, it condensed a terrifying sword gleam and slashed toward Lu Ming. This wasn't in Genesis art, but a quasi-immortal art. A quasi-immortal art was generally born from an immortal art. It was an extension of an immortal art. Its power was naturally far inferior to an immortal art, but it was much stronger than in Genesis art. There were also outstanding people who evolved their own Genesis art and promoted it to a quasi-immortal art. Of course, such situations were very rare. Throughout history, it was rare. However, such quasi-immortal arts were usually extremely powerful and most suited to the user. The power they could unleash was much stronger than a quasi-immortal art that was born from an immortal art. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the holy light cosmos naturally didn't have such talent. His quasi-immortal art was born from an immortal art of an important person in the holy light cosmos, but it was still terrifyingly powerful. But now, it couldn't block Lu Ming's punch. Lu Ming's fist was wrapped in a layer of blood-red light. With one punch, the sacred sword condensed by the ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the holy light cosmos was directly shattered. The fist didn't stop and continued to bombard the opponent's armor. Boom! The armor shook violently, and dense cracks appeared on it. In the end, it exploded with a bang. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the holy light cosmos groaned and retreated hundreds of thousands of miles. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face paled. One could see that his chest had caved in. The fist force had almost penetrated it. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal scanned Lu Ming with his spiritual sense and discovered that Lu Ming was only at the origin realm, but there was a terrifying power on him. Be careful. The power of an expert is attached to him, borrowing his strength to attack, someone roared. These people were all ninth tribulation sub-immortals, so they naturally saw through Lu Ming's strength with a single glance. However, Lu Ming didn't stop there. He continued to attack the ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the holy light cosmos. Lu Ming had already injured the ninth tribulation sub-immortal with a single punch. Now was a good opportunity. Boom! 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 Lu Ming swung his fists and punched continuously. In an instant, he had sent out over 100 punches. At this moment, he felt that he had endless power that he needed to vent. Therefore, he didn't hold back at all. Every punch contained his full strength. Over 100 punches directly drowned the ninth tribulation sub-immortal. Boom! In the end, the ninth tribulation sub-immortal exploded in the sky. However, he didn't die. A ray of light wrapped around his broken body and fled into the distance before condensing again. He didn't die even after that. Lu Ming's face sank. He only understood how terrifying a ninth tribulation sub-immortal was after fighting for real. Their vitality was too strong, as if they had an undying body. Even when their bodies exploded and their souls were about to be annihilated, they still didn't die. It was no wonder that since the start of the battle, only Azure Ox managed to pull one ninth tribulation sub-immortal away with its life, and sword ancestor Tang Feng managed to kill one. Apart from that, no other ninth tribulation sub-immortal had died. Such an existence had undergone the ninth tribulation sub-immortal tribulation and had tempered themselves to become extremely powerful. If even the ninth tribulation sub-immortal tribulation couldn't kill him, just how strong was his vitality? Although the ninth tribulation sub-immortal didn't die, he was still heavily injured. His aura was weak, and he would not be able to participate in the battle for a while. The ninth tribulation sub-immortal also knew his own situation. He frantically retreated, wanting to leave the battlefield. Lu Ming didn't give chase. If he focused on chasing this person, he would most likely be able to kill him in the end, but that would waste a lot of time. The others were in a very bad situation. They could follow in Azure Ox's footsteps at any time. He had to help the others first. Chapter 5201. Whoosh! These thoughts flashed in Lu Ming's mind and he made a decision in an instant. His figure did not stop at all. With a turn, he charged toward another battlefield. The battlefield of the other two primogenitors in the Azure Divine Realm. The two progenitors had already regrouped, but the experts who had besieged them had also gathered. They were in a precarious situation. They were heavily injured, and it wouldn't be long before they followed in Azure Ox's footsteps. Boom! 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 Lu Ming punched crazily as soon as he arrived. The violent fist force exploded the void and charged towards a ninth tribulation subimmortal. This ninth tribulation subimmortal also coughed up blood and retreated with a pale face. In the distance, Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the others were dumbfounded. They couldn't understand how Lu Ming, who was originally with them, could suddenly erupt with such powerful strength and injure two ninth tribulation subimmortals consecutively. But following that, they were excited. Great! Seeing Lu Ming injure the second ninth tribulation subimmortal, Lu Song and the others shouted excitedly. They couldn't wait to charge into the battlefield like Lu Ming. Don't be defeated by him one by one. Join forces to deal with him. A ninth tribulation subimmortal from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos shouted and charged towards Lu Ming. To be precise, it was two ninth tribulation subimmortals. There were originally three ninth tribulation subimmortals from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos who had joined forces to kill the Green Ox. One of them was killed by the Green Ox, and the other was severely injured. The remaining one, who had originally participated in the besieging of Tang Feng, was now charging towards Lu Ming with another expert. Two beams of terrifying sword gleams slashed toward Lu Ming as if they were splitting the sky and the earth. Lu Ming punched and shattered the two sword lights. He faced the two experts from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. But from another direction, another attack was launched towards Lu Ming. It was an expert who was besieging the phoenix of the demon race. This person abandoned the phoenix and charged towards Lu Ming. The three experts pounced towards Lu Ming like lightning. Lu Ming stopped and brandished his fists to bombard them. His fist energy weaved unhindered as he fought against the three experts. In a battle of this level, Lu Ming's Genesis techniques were naturally useless, and he had to rely on brute force. Lu Ming relied on brute force and crazily swung his fists to fight against the three experts. Unexpectedly, he still had the upper hand. However, this was the best he could do. The three masters cooperated with each other to disperse Lu Ming's strength. Lu Ming wanted to defeat them, but he couldn't do it in a short time. However, with Lu Ming participating in the battle, the pressure on the others lessened slightly. Lu Ming had injured two ninth tribulation subimmortals the moment he attacked. These two ninth tribulation subimmortals had retreated from the battlefield to treat their injuries. This attracted another three ninth tribulation subimmortals. Whether it was the three primogenitors of the Azure Divine Realm, the Demon Phoenix, Tang Feng, Fei Huang, or the Little Human King, the pressure was slightly reduced. Tang Feng stood on the two fragments of the heart of the universe. His aura fused with them, and his aura rose once again. He wanted to knock on the immortal pass here and break through to the immortal realm. Buzz! At this moment, the new continent formed by the fusion of the two fragments of the heart of the universe emitted a formless energy that filled the entire primitive universe. The entire primitive universe could feel it, especially the fragments of the continent. They trembled slightly and resonated with it. On the other side of the primitive universe, far away from the Azure Divine Realm, in an ancient ruin, a group of experts was stationed here. They were from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and were temporarily stationed here. Dan Ning and Dan Xiong were both here. After obtaining a fragment of the heart of the universe, Dan Ning had been in seclusion here. He hoped to completely refine the fragment of the heart of the universe and fuse with it as soon as possible. With Dan Ying's cultivation, it wasn't that easy to completely refine a fragment of the heart of the universe. It would take a long time. Suddenly, Dan Ying's fragment of the heart of the universe trembled violently. What's going on? Why is the fragment of the heart of the universe suddenly trembling violently? Dan Ning held a bracelet, and his expression changed drastically. The Jade Clear Great Cosmos had used an array formation to refine a fragment of the heart of the universe into a spatial treasure. It was this bracelet. Buzz buzz, the bracelet shone and trembled more and more violently. Dan Ning seemed to be unable to control it. What's going on? Dan Xiong rushed over and asked. I don't know. I feel like I can't control it and it's about to fly away. Dan Xiong's expression turned ugly. At this moment, figures were constantly arriving here. They were all experts from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos, and there was no lack of sub-immortals. Only a portion of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos had gone to the Azure Divine Realm. There were still many experts left here. After all, the fragment of the heart of the universe in Dan Ying's hands hadn't been completely refined. He was also worried that others would secretly attack him. Crack. At this moment, numerous cracks appeared on the bracelet before it exploded with a loud bang. A fragment of the heart of the universe floated out and rapidly grew in size. The fragment of the heart of the universe broke free from Dan Ying's control. It trembled slightly, and the void collapsed. It was about to break through the void and escape. The fragment of the heart of the universe wants to escape. Stop it. Stop it quickly. Dan Ying shouted. There was no need for him to shout. The sub-immortal experts of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos had already made their moves. Layers of power struck out, trying to imprison the fragment of the heart of the universe. However, the fragment of the heart of the universe shook and broke free from these forces. It broke through the void and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. My fragment of the heart of the universe, my fragment of the heart of the universe, get it back from me, Dan Ying let out a hysterical roar. His mentality had completely collapsed. The fragment of the heart of the universe was the foundation of his Tao. With the help of the latest fragment of the universe, not only would his talent and potential increase greatly, but he would also be able to quickly pass the 9-stage immortal tribulation and achieve the immortal Tao. He might even be able to use this to become the king of the immortal Tao. The king of the immortal Tao was also known as the Immortal King. The king of the immortals. Even in the entire universe C, the Immortal King was the top expert and the overlord of a region. Many great cosmoses didn't even have immortals, let alone immortal kings. In the Jade Clear Great Cosmos, the Immortal King was the top figure, and there weren't many of them. Other than his big brother, Dan Xiong, who would dare to say that they could definitely step into this realm? With his talent, he might not even have a 100% chance of becoming an immortal, let alone an immortal king. There was absolutely no hope. However, there was hope with the fragment of the heart of the universe of the primitive universe. But now, this hope was gone. It had escaped from his hands. How could he not go crazy? Chase. The sub-immortals of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos broke through the void and chased after it. However, there was no trace of the fragment of the heart of the universe. The same situation was happening on the other side of the universe. In the World Skeletal Great Cosmos, there was also a prodigy who had obtained a fragment of the heart of the universe. However, at this moment, this fragment of the heart of the universe had also escaped and broke through the void. The Azure Divine Realm. Boom! Boom! The void exploded. 2 continents suddenly appeared and merged with the continent under Tang Feng's feet. These 2 continents that suddenly appeared were naturally the 2 fragments of the heart of the universe that Dan Ying and the others had obtained. It's the fragment of the heart of the universe. Damn it! The experts of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and Skeletal Great Cosmos shouted angrily. Chapter 5202. The experts of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Bone Great Cosmos had ugly expressions. The fragment of the heart of the universe that should have belonged to them had actually appeared here. Clearly, it had been lured here. Tang Feng's aura had merged with the 2 fragments of the heart of the universe. He wanted to break through to the immortal realm, so he had triggered the heart of the universe and attracted the other 2 fragments. The 4 fragments of the heart of the universe merged with Tang Feng's aura, causing his aura to surge again. Stop him! Shui Higgins shouted and attacked crazily. Saber light slashed at Tang Feng to prevent him from breaking through. There are only 4 fragments of the heart of the universe. The laws of order are incomplete. He can't break through, someone said. They weren't afraid that Tang Feng could break through. It wasn't that easy to break through the immortal realm and become an immortal. Even in a complete environment, there was a slim chance of survival. The fusion of the 4 fragments of the heart of the universe was also incomplete. It was impossible to break through successfully. Sure enough, Tang Feng's aura seemed to be obstructed when it rose to a certain height. The complete heart of the universe and the chaos ring. Qiuqiu, take out the chaos ring. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu's stomach formed a space of its own that isolated the outside world. The chaos ring didn't fly out by itself. Good. The chaos ring acted strangely just now, but I suppressed it. I see, Qiuqiu shouted and opened its mouth. The chaos ring flew out from inside. As soon as it flew out, it quickly flew towards Tang Feng. Halfway through, the chaos ring cracked and the continent inside emerged, merging with the heart of the universe under Tang Feng's feet. The 5 fragments of the heart of the universe merged and the complete heart of the universe reappeared. It is indeed the heart of the universe. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He had long suspected that the chaos ring was a heart of the universe. In order to avoid being deduced by the Almighty of the Outerverse, he had already cleared out the treasures in the heart of the universe and put them in his storage ring or Taishang Immortal City. He had once taken away a piece of the stellar sky continent and released it long ago. The great desolate ring was already empty. The 5 fragments of the universe merged and the complete heart of the universe reappeared. Boundless laws of order permeated the entire desolate universe. These laws of order couldn't be seen, but they were like invisible threads. With the heart of the universe as the core, they spread across the entire universe and connected with all the continent fragments in the universe. At this moment, countless fragments of continents in the desolate universe were glowing and vibrating before flying in the direction of the universe core. At this moment, all the living beings in the primitive universe felt a little different. They felt like they were about to merge with the heaven and earth. They felt like they could clearly capture the rules and order of the universe. Their minds also became much clearer. Many things that they couldn't comprehend in the past suddenly became enlightened. The 3 primogenitors of the Tsangqing divine realm, the monster race overlords, and all the origins and subimmortals of the Tsangqing divine realm were overjoyed. How many years had it been? How many years had it been? The complete cosmic core had finally reappeared. This time, as long as they could get through this hurdle and protect the heart of the universe, the primitive universe would have hope of rising again. He would risk his life to protect the heart of the universe. Everyone in the primitive universe roared in their hearts, and then they fought back crazily. Boom! When the complete heart of the universe reappeared, Tang Feng's aura, which had been obstructed, rose again. Open for me! Tang Feng roared. An ancient door seemed to have appeared in his body. The door was tightly shut. At this moment, a terrifying sword light rushed out of Tang Feng's body and bombarded the ancient door. Boom! The door shook violently, but it was still tightly shut. Tang Feng seemed to have suffered some backlash. He staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his eyes were still bright. He roared again, and an even more shocking sword light rushed out and slashed the door again. Knocking on the Immortal Pass. This door was the Immortal Pass. As long as one knocked on the Immortal Pass and broke through this door, they could leap up and achieve transcendence. They could prove their Tao and become an immortal, becoming another kind of life form. However, knocking on the Immortal Pass was very dangerous. Every strike would cause a backlash from the Immortal Pass, and one would die. Boom! Tang Feng's second strike landed on the door, and the door shook even more violently. The door looked like it was made of stone. At this moment, it seemed like stone chips and gravel were flying everywhere. The expressions of all the ninth tribulation subimmortals in the outerverse changed drastically. This was a sign of breaking through the Immortal Pass. How was this possible? The 5 universe core fragments had just fused, and the laws of order were not perfect yet. This required a process and a certain amount of time before the primitive universe could transform into a complete great universe, which was suitable for breaking through and becoming an immortal. But now, it had just been fused. In theory, it was still impossible for him to become an immortal. Moreover, he was still fighting with them. How could he have the strength to knock on the Immortal Pass? However, Tang Feng's aura was too strong. He might really succeed. Stop him. Once he succeeds, we will all die. He is now knocking on the Immortal Pass. Most of his power is focused on the Immortal Pass. He can't stop us. Take the opportunity to kill him. Dozens of Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals roared and attacked crazily. Tang Feng was hit by a palm print. His body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The main reason was that there were too many experts. More than half of the Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals were besieging Tang Feng. Get lost. The Junior Human King roared. His body became as huge as a star. His fists kept bombarding. He blocked 8 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals alone. His fists were harder than Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal weapons. However, these sub-immortals were skilled in soul attacks. The Junior Human King's body trembled. His soul felt like it was being torn apart. Fei Huang also attacked with all her might. She blocked 5 or 6 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals. However, this was already the limit. There were still 5 or 6 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals attacking Tang Feng, including Xue Higan. The one who posed the greatest threat to Tang Feng was Xue Higan. Tang Feng's body glowed. Sword chi seeped out of every pore on his body, forming shields of sword chi around him. They had astonishing defensive power, but they were broken by Xue Higan every time. Since the experts from the Nether River Great Cosmos and the Holy Light Great Cosmos arrived, there were now 39 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals from the Outerverse. Among them, one was killed by Azure Ox, and the other was killed by Tang Feng. 37 of them were still alive. Among these 37, one was severely injured by Tang Feng's sword. 2 were injured by the Junior Human King, and 2 were injured by Lu Ming. These 5 people were hiding in the distance to heal their injuries. There were still 32 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals participating in the battle. 3 were besieging the Thoughtless Progenitor, 3 were besieging the Demon Phoenix, 5 were besieging the 2 incomplete immortals from the Azure Godly Realm, and 3 were besieging Lu Ming. There were still 18 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals stopping Tang Feng. Chapter 5203. It was impossible to stop 18 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals with just Fei Huang and the Little Human King. Boom! Boom! Tang Feng was hit continuously. He staggered and spat out blood, unable to use the third sword to knock the immortal gate. Get lost! Tang Feng shouted and slashed at Xue Higan with all his strength. Xue Higan blocked the attack with his saber and quickly retreated, but the next moment, he attacked again. Xue Higan's strength was not much weaker than Tang Feng's. With Tang Feng's strength, he could not hurt him at all. I have to stop Xue Higan to let the sword ancestor break through, but I'm afraid I can't stop Xue Higan with my strength. What should I do? Lu Ming thought quickly as he fought the 3 experts. There was only one person who could stop Xue Higan, and that was the Little Human King. Xue Higan was not good at soul attacks, and the Little Human King could use his strong body to stop Xue Higan. But without the Little Human King, who could stop the 8 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals? I don't care. I'll go all out. Lu Ming roared in his heart. He ignored his defense and attacked one of them with all his strength. Boom! The man was sent flying, but Lu Ming was hit as well. The sanguine glow on his body dimmed. There was even a terrifying force that struck the sanguine glow and Lu Ming. Fortunately, most of the power had been weakened by the sanguine light. The power that landed on Lu Ming's body was less than 1%. Even so, Lu Ming was still injured and he vomited blood. The power of a Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal was too terrifying. If not for the bloody light, Lu Ming would have been turned into ashes. In this way, Lu Ming rushed out of the encirclement of the 3 and charged toward the Little Human King. Before he arrived, he punched continuously with both fists. Hundreds of punches were about to drown the 8 experts. Senior, go and stop Xue Higan. Leave these people to me. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the Little Human King. Leave them to you? The Little Human King hesitated. He could see that Lu Ming was only relying on external forces, and he definitely could not stop so many Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals. But did he have a choice now? He was the only one who could stop Xue Higan. Only by blocking Shuebai and would Tang Feng have a chance to open the immortal gate and become an immortal. Scram! The little human king shouted loudly. He didn't care about defense and charged forward with his physical body. Clang! He suddenly threw a punch at a battle sword. The battle sword was a ninth tribulation quasi-immortal armament, and it was covered in cracks. The sword's master rapidly retreated. The other punch also sent a ninth tribulation sub-immortal retreating. Due to Lu Ming's interference, these 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals were distracted and allowed the junior human king to break out of the encirclement with his powerful physical body. The junior human king charged at Shuehigan. Brat, your opponent is me. Junior human monarch's iron fist was like a huge meteorite as it smashed toward Shuehigan. Shuebai and had no choice but to concentrate and fight against the little human king. Break! Tang Feng took this opportunity to release another sword strike, directly breaking through the immortal pass. Boom! The immortal pass trembled, and even more rubble flew out. One could see that the gate of the immortal pass had been slashed into a crater. If this continued, there was a real possibility that it would be broken. Kill! Don't let him succeed. The ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the Outerverse crazily attacked Tang Feng. Tang Feng's protective sword shield dimmed, and there were several terrifying wounds on his body. Lu Ming tried his best to stop these ninth tribulation sub-immortals, but it was too difficult. How could he block the 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals who were originally besieging the junior human king, the 3 who were originally besieging him, and the few who were originally attacking Tang Feng? Instead, he was hit, and his bloody light trembled non-stop. Brat, I'll kill you first. Many ninth tribulation sub-immortals joined forces to besiege Lu Ming. Lu Ming roared and exerted his strength to the extreme, but in the end, he could only barely hold back 5 ninth tribulation sub-immortals. The other experts charged at Tang Feng together. If this continued, Tang Feng would not be able to break through. Boom! At this moment, the void exploded, and a flaming sword slashed out, sending an expert who was charging at Tang Feng flying. Then, the sword flashed and slashed at the others. A figure appeared, shrouded in flames and holding a flaming sword with a shocking aura. A remnant immortal. Another remnant immortal. It's the quasi-immortal tribe. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this person was from the quasi-immortal tribe. Could it be the ancestor of the quasi-immortal tribe? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had once heard Sung Qiong mention that there was a perfected immortal ancestor in the quasi-immortal tribe. Back then, when they were fighting for the immortal slough in the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven, Sung Qiong finally relied on an immortal imprint to successfully seize a type of immortal slough. However, the ancestor of the quasi-immortal tribe had already fallen from the immortal Dao realm, just like the ancestor of the Tsang Qing divine realm. Tsang Lin, it's you. You're actually not dead yet. Ancestor Wu Nian cried out in surprise. You're not dead yet, how can I die first? Tsang Lin replied. The quasi-immortal tribe has always been greedy for life and afraid of death. It's normal for them to survive. Phoenix of the demon race said coldly, as if she was not interested in the quasi-immortal tribe. The quasi-immortal tribe was actually neither the demon race nor the human race. During the prehistoric continent, apart from the human race, the demon race, and the Wu people, there were actually many other races. It was just that they weren't as powerful as the 3 races, and the quasi-immortal tribe was one of them. Today, for the sake of the prehistoric universe and my descendants, I'm going all out. Fight! The ancestor of the quasi-immortal tribe roared. He ignored Phoenix's sarcasm and attacked with all his strength, blocking the 3 ninth tribulation quasi-immortals. However, it could be seen that Sung Lin's battle strength was inferior to ancestor Wu Nian and Phoenix. He was barely able to fight against the 3 ninth tribulation quasi-immortals and was retreating step by step after a few moves. How many of the remaining evils of the prehistoric universe have come out? Today, we'll eliminate them all. The experts of the Great Bone Cosmos shouted and attacked with all their strength. Clearly, the 9th tribulation quasi-immortals of the Outerverse were also going all out. They no longer held back and used their trump cards. Because once Tang Feng became an immortal, he would definitely not let them off. Although Fei Huang, Junior Human King, Lu Ming, and Song Lin were blocking with all their strength, they still couldn't block everyone. There were still 7 people besieging Tang Feng. What was more terrifying was that the 5 Ninth Tribulation quasi-immortals who were recuperating outside the battlefield had stabilized their injuries and returned to the battlefield. They didn't attack the others and surrounded Tang Feng immediately. They knew very well that as long as they killed Tang Feng, the others would be easy to deal with. In this way, 12 people besieged Tang Feng. Bang! Tang Feng was in the middle of knocking on the immortal pass, and his body was directly torn apart while he was distracted. Although he immediately reformed, his aura was clearly weaker than before. Everyone's heart sank. If this continued, Tang Feng would definitely not be able to break through the immortal pass. If they couldn't become immortals, they would definitely not be able to keep the core of the universe. Fight! Let's die together. The origins and quasi-immortals of the Ash and Azure Divine Realm were all going all out. Boom! 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 Many Origins powerhouses rushed out and then their bodies exploded. Self-destruction. Yes, many Origins in the Ash and Azure Divine Realm self-destructed their origin roots. Chapter 5204. The self-destruction of the origin root, compressed to the extreme, instantly erupted. Even a sub-immortal couldn't ignore it. Moreover, it was the self-destruction of multiple origin roots. The terrifying energy surged, forcing the sub-immortals of the Outerverse to retreat. In this way, the sub-immortals of the Tsangqing Divine Realm and the Demon Race seized the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement and toward the battlefield where Tang Feng was. "You're courting death." A Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal shouted coldly. The highest cultivation level of these sub-immortals was only an 8th Tribulation sub-immortal, and there weren't many of them. The others were even weaker and wanted to stop them. "Let's die together." The sub-immortals of the Tsangqing Divine Realm and the sub-immortals of the Demon Race were crazy. Their bodies emitted dazzling light as their bodies swelled. Boom! In an instant, 5 sub-immortals self-destructed. The self-destruction of the sub-immortals instantly erupted their origin root, origin power, physical body, and soul, forming the most terrifying power. The self-destruction of a sub-immortal was absolutely terrifying. Their essence, energy, and spirit turned into fireworks that bloomed with brilliant light. Even a Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal couldn't ignore it. 5 extremely powerful forces swept out, and the Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal surrounding Tang Feng were all pushed back. Tang Feng roared, his voice filled with grief and indignation. He knew very well that these sub-immortals sacrificed themselves to buy him some time to knock on the immortal pass. This was the time that these sub-immortals bought for him. He definitely couldn't miss it. His essence, energy, and spirit erupted. Another sword chi soared into the sky and stood above the immortal pass. This time, a large piece of rock was cut off from the immortal pass. One could see a pit in the middle. Kill! The 12 Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals charged back. However, another 5 sub-immortals of the Tsangqing Divine Realm and the Demon Race rushed over and self-destructed together. The energy formed by the self-destruction sent the 12 sub-immortals flying again. Damn it! Lu Ming, Fei Huang, the Little Human King, the 3 primogenitors of the Tsangqing Divine Realm, the Phoenix of the Demon Race, and the others were all furious. They could only watch as these sub-immortals self-destructed one by one and died in front of them. It was tragic and tragic, they felt a deep sense of helplessness. Then, monstrous killing intent. Kill! 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 They fought madly, ignoring their injuries and dangers. This was also a result of the battle. A Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal was blasted apart, his body torn apart. However, they all paid a price. Their bodies were bathed in blood, their injuries even more serious. Fei Huang's face was pale. Several parts of her body had been pierced through. She was relying on her powerful life force to stubbornly hold on. The demonic phoenix's injuries were even more severe. Its body had been torn apart 3 times, but each time, it would burn with phoenix flames and regenerate with the power of nirvanic rebirth to continue fighting. The 3 progenitors were heavily injured and on the verge of death. The 2 weaker progenitors almost died several times. The junior human king and Tsang Lin were in similar situations. Tsang Lin was covered in blood, both his and his enemies. The junior human king's physical body was unparalleled, but if one could observe his soul through his physical body, they would see that his soul was full of cracks, like porcelain that could shatter at any time. Injuries to one's soul were much more difficult to heal than injuries to one's physical body. Only Lu Ming was slightly better off. With the layer of bloody light protecting his body, although he was also injured, it was still within his tolerance range. Power. I need power. I'm still too weak, Lu Ming growled. The blood crystal left by the Lord of the Taishang Immortal City had given him an extremely powerful power that was far beyond that of an ordinary Ninth Tribulation subimmortal. However, he didn't know how to use it. His cultivation level was too far away from that of a Ninth Tribulation subimmortal. His Genesis arts couldn't support such a powerful force. Therefore, he could only fight with brute force. This way, he wouldn't be able to unleash the power of the blood crystal. How could he use this powerful force effectively? Lu Ming had no idea. Tang Feng continued to seize this rare opportunity to knock on the immortal pass again. He raised his essence, qi, and spirit to the peak and slashed out a stunning sword attack. Crack. This time, a crack actually appeared on the immortal pass. A supreme aura seemed to spread out from the crack, eternal and immortal. The expressions of all the Ninth Tribulation subimmortals in the outerverse changed drastically. Is he going to succeed? You pieces of trash. Why aren't you stopping him? When he breaks through, all of you will die, Shui Higan roared and attacked with all his strength. Unfortunately, he wasn't good at soul attacks and was firmly entangled by the junior human king. Shui Higan was strong, but the junior human king's body was the body of a human king, which could restrain him. The other Ninth Tribulation subimmortals in the outerverse didn't look good. No one would be happy to be called a piece of trash. However, they also knew that this wasn't the time to argue with Shui Higan. They had to stop Tang Feng. The 12 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals besieging Tang Feng emitted a dazzling light. They were really going all out and attacking Tang Feng. Not only that, but the experts fighting against Fei Huang, Lu Ming, and the 3 primogenitors, all the Ninth Tribulation subimmortals abandoned their opponents and wanted to kill Tang Feng. Stop right there. Your opponent is me. The 3 primogenitors, Fei Huang, and the others tried their best to stop him. However, they were at a disadvantage, and the other side had many experts. How could they stop them? One by one, the experts attacked Tang Feng. Explode. This time, a total of 10 subimmortals soared into the sky and exploded into dazzling lights. Among these 10 subimmortals, there were several 8th Tribulation subimmortals. Originally, there were only about 20 subimmortals in the Tsang-Qing Divine Realm and the Primitive Universe. In just a short while, they had lost 20. After this battle, almost all the subimmortals in the Primitive Universe were exhausted. It was too tragic. In the distance, Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the others' eyes were blood-red, and tears flowed down. Ah! There were still 500 to 600 origins left in the Tsang-Qing Divine Realm, and they were all crying. The power of the self-destruction of 10 subimmortals and even 8th Tribulation subimmortals was too strong. The 12 Ninth Tribulation subimmortals bore the brunt of the powerful force and were forced to retreat. They were even injured, and their bodies were tattered. The self-destruction of an 8th Tribulation subimmortal was already a threat to them. Tang Feng took this opportunity to slash out again. Boom! Crack! Cracking sounds came from above the immortal pass. This time, several cracks appeared in succession. The immortal pass was about to be broken. The outerverse powerhouses were a little panicked. We can't let him make the next slash. Kill! The 12 powerhouses attacked Tang Feng again. Not only that, but other powerhouses also arrived. Several dozen terrifying attacks rushed towards Tang Feng all at once, drowning Tang Feng. Tang Feng's body instantly exploded. No, everyone in the primitive universe roared in their hearts, and their eyes were bloodshot. Was Tang Feng dead? After sacrificing so much, it was still difficult to succeed in the end? Chapter 5205. Everyone's heart sank. Was Tang Feng going to die? If Tang Feng died, then all hope would be gone. In the end, the primitive universe would completely decline. Fortunately, Tang Feng didn't die. Although his body exploded, it immediately reformed, but his face was a little pale. He also had a taboo body. Although he walked a completely different path from Lu Ming, his vitality was also extremely shocking. It wasn't that easy to kill him. Seeing that Tang Feng wasn't dead, the ninth tribulation sub-immortals of the Outerverse roared and charged at him. Jade Clear Great Cosmos, Holy Light Great Cosmos, Styx River Great Cosmos, Skeleton Great Cosmos. There were also some existences from unknown Great Cosmos that were shrouded in multicolored light. We are all Great Cosmos of the Young Realm. Why are you so ruthless? Living beings of the Young Realm, as long as you retreat, we can let bygones be bygones. Fei Huang said. Her gaze swept across the Holy Light Great Cosmos, Jade Clear Great Cosmos, and some other living beings of the Young Realm. She could help Tang Feng make the decision. As long as these people retreated, Tang Feng wouldn't deal with them after becoming an immortal. However, these experts of the Young Realm had cold gazes and showed no signs of stopping. They were murderous and swore to kill Tang Feng. There's no need to talk nonsense with them. There are some people in the Young Realm who are even more despicable. The reason why my father died back then was because I suspect that there were experts from the Young Realm who secretly took action. Otherwise, with my father's strength, how could he not be able to deal with DK? He was already injured before the battle with Teak. The junior human king shouted. What? Everyone's heart was greatly shaken. Was there a shocking secret behind human king Xian Yuan's death? Was he plotted against by the experts of the Yang Realm and finally killed in a great battle with DK? Especially Lu Ming, his heart was in turmoil and he couldn't calm down. He couldn't help but think of the human king's broken sword. There was a clear fingerprint on the broken sword, as if the human king's sword was broken by a finger. He didn't believe that Teak had such strength. The human king's sword was a genuine immortal weapon that was born from chaos. Moreover, it was in the hands of a human king. Who could break it with a finger? Teak's combat prowess was equal to that of a sovereign personage at best. He absolutely could not do that. The junior sovereign personage once said that before the human sovereign personage Xian Yuan fought Teak, he was already injured. Then, before the battle with Teak, could it be that he was really ambushed by the experts of the Yang Realm? His immortal weapon was broken, and he was seriously injured. Finally, when he encountered Teak, he had no choice but to split his body to suppress Teak. Also, when the primitive universe was destroyed, the Yang Realm didn't send anyone to help. That was very strange. At that time, the primitive universe was ranked 11th in the Yang Realm and belonged to the top great universe in Yang Court. A few experts even held the position of elders in Yang Court. Such an important great cosmos was being invaded by the underworld, yet there were no reinforcements. This didn't make sense. Could it be that the destruction of the primitive universe had something to do with the Yang Realm universe? Jade Clear Great Cosmos or Holy Light Great Cosmos? If a great cosmos of the Yang Realm was really behind this, then these two great cosmoses would have a reason to take action. Jade Clear Great Cosmos was ranked 10th in the Yang Realm. The Sacred Light Great Cosmos was ranked 8th in the Yang Realm and was ranked near the bottom of the top 10. The Great Desolate Great Cosmos was extremely powerful. Once its strength continued to increase and charged into the top 10, these two great cosmoses would be at risk of being squeezed out. Especially the Jade Clear Great Cosmos. These thoughts only flashed through Lu Ming's mind. The most important thing now was to stop the experts of the Outerverse and let Tang Feng break through. Now, the sub-immortals of the primitive universe were almost all dead. It was impossible to rely on self-detonation to stall for time. At least 29th Tribulation sub-immortals charged toward Tang Feng, wanting to completely obliterate him. Tang Feng was facing a lot of pressure while knocking on the Immortal Pass, so it was difficult for him to divert his attention to deal with others. One had to know that knocking on the Immortal Pass was very dangerous. Not to mention fighting with others, many people who wholeheartedly knocked on the Immortal Pass would die under the backlash of the Immortal Pass. The greater the offensive power of one's Immortal Gate knocking was, the greater the backlash one would receive. On one hand, Tang Feng had to resist the backlash of the Immortal Pass. On the other hand, there were so many experts besieging him. No matter how strong Tang Feng was, he would still die. Stop right there. Kill. Fei Huang, Little Human King, Lu Ming, the three primogenitors, Phoenix of the Fiend race, and Sang Qing attacked frantically, wanting to delay the experts of the Outerverse. However, there were too many of them. Even if they disregarded their injuries and attacked, they couldn't delay them. Lu Ming's body was bathed in blood. He circulated everyone's power, including his own. Even though he knew that his own power was useless against 9th Tribulation sub-immortals, he couldn't care less now. Every bit of hope was worth it. At this moment, the primordial god stone in his spiritual sea shone. On its surface, the runes nearby flickered. Then, a figure appeared on the surface of the primordial god stone. This is, Lu Ming's heart trembled. He naturally recognized this figure. In the immortal graveyard, in front of a large grave, Lu Ming had fought with this figure for many years. Relying on this figure, the power of his Genesis techniques had greatly increased. In the end, the figure even flew into the primordial god stone, causing a layer of stone to fall off, revealing the stone's original appearance. This figure was the one that had flown into the primordial god stone in the immortal graveyard. The figure was very small, like a little human standing on the surface of the primordial god stone. Its feet moved in a mysterious way, and its fists danced as if it was practicing a fist technique. Lu Ming was enlightened. Unconsciously, he moved along with the figure. He stepped on the void, waved his fists, and blasted them out. Whoosh! In the next moment, Lu Ming's speed suddenly increased. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with the 9th Tribulation sub-immortals and punched one of them. At this moment, Lu Ming's fists exploded with boundless power. They were unstoppable, and everything was destroyed and turned into nothingness. Bang! The layers of defense set up by the 9th Tribulation sub-immortal were instantly penetrated. The fist force crushed down, and the 9th Tribulation sub-immortal's body directly exploded. Even his soul couldn't escape and was completely obliterated by the fist force. A 9th Tribulation sub-immortal was killed just like that. This was the third 9th Tribulation sub-immortal to die in today's battle. Previously, Tang Feng had killed one, and Azure Ox had killed another. Now, Lu Ming had killed one. Even Lu Ming himself was a little stunned. He never thought that the power would be so strong. Great! Fei Huang, the Little Human King, and the others were also stunned at first. Although they were also shocked and couldn't understand why Lu Ming's battle strength had soared. But no matter the reason, Lu Ming's battle strength had skyrocketed, and it was a good thing for them. The 9th Tribulation sub-immortals of the Outerverse were shocked. The vitality of a 9th Tribulation sub-immortal was extremely tenacious, and they were actually killed just like that. This made their hearts turn cold. Chapter 5206. Although Lu Ming was slightly taken aback, he did not stop. This was a rare opportunity. He wanted to know how long the figure on the primordial god stone could last and whether it would disappear soon. The figure on the surface of the primordial god stone was still punching. Lu Ming's body followed closely behind the figure and punched at the same time. Whoosh! Lu Ming seemed to hear the power in his body circulating like flowing water. The power in Lu Ming's body came from the blood crystal of the Lord of the Taishang Celestial Dynasty. It was too strong, and Lu Ming did not know how to use it at all. Previously, he could only use brute force and could not fully unleash the power of this power. However, right now, when Lu Ming brandished his fist, this force was fully mobilized and its prowess was unleashed to its fullest. Boom! Lu Ming's fists seemed to be moving the universe. They contained unparalleled power, as if they could destroy everything. Bam! In front of him, another ninth tribulation sub-immortal exploded, his body and soul destroyed. It was not that this ninth tribulation sub-immortal did not resist. On the contrary, he used all his strength to resist, but his outcome was still the same as the previous ninth tribulation sub-immortal. All resistance was unnecessary. Too strong. He killed a ninth tribulation sub-immortal with one punch. The power of his fist was unparalleled. Lu Ming's blood boiled as he roared, "Kill! Attack together! Don't let him kill us one by one." In an instant, a total of 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals joined forces and launched a powerful attack on Lu Ming. When 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals attacked with all their strength, their power was earth-shattering. They could also destroy an existence of the same level. Lu Ming was fearless. He punched out and punched. Streams of fist energy pierced through heaven and earth, crossing the universe and fighting the 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals head-on. Boom! 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 The void within hundreds of millions of miles turned into chaos. Destructive energy surged wantonly, and it was a scene of doomsday. In the chaos, 8 figures retreated rapidly. They were 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals. Their expressions were extremely ugly, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals joined forces, but they were still no match. They were pushed back by the unparalleled fist energy, and they were even injured. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. "All of you, stay here." Lu Ming let out a long howl and continued to throw punches. As he threw punches, not only did the power of his punches not weaken, but they also became stronger and stronger. The powerful punch not only covered the 8 ninth tribulation sub-immortals but also the other ninth tribulation sub-immortals. 20. Lu Ming's fist energy covered the 29th tribulation sub-immortals and pulled them into the battle. Lu Ming's fist energy was filled with a fatal threat. The 9th tribulation sub-immortal who was attacked by Lu Ming could only stop his counterattack. Lu Ming alone blocked 29th tribulation sub-immortals, greatly reducing the pressure on the others. In the outerverse, there were only 37 9th tribulation sub-immortals left. Shui Higan was entangled by the junior human king, so there were only 36 of them left. Lu Ming had entangled 20 of them, leaving 16 of them. Fei Huang, the 3 primogenitors, the demon phoenix, and Sang Qing attacked the remaining 16 sub-immortals with all their might. This way, Tang Feng finally obtained a chance to catch his breath. Mustering all of his strength, he slashed out another sword strike. Boom! This sword strike landed on the immortal pass, causing it to shake violently. Dense cracks appeared on the immortal pass, and debris flew everywhere. The immortal pass was about to be broken. The 3 primogenitors, the demon phoenix, and Sang Qing were overjoyed. He was about to succeed. At their peak, they were true immortals and had broken through the immortal pass. They knew very well that Tang Feng's immortal pass was about to be broken. One sword strike. Perhaps he only needed one more sword strike to break through the immortal pass and become an immortal. The 9th tribulation sub-immortals of the outerverse panicked. Use the immortal weapon. Now that the universal core has merged, the primitive universe is much more stable. A broken immortal weapon will not cause the universe to be destroyed. That's right. Use the broken immortal weapon to kill them. Someone shouted. Kill. Wang Gu of the Nether River Great Cosmos took out a pitch-black sword. In the beginning, Wang Gu had used this sword to break the seal of the Azure Godly Realm. This was a broken immortal weapon. Help me revive the immortal weapon. Wang Gu roared. Several experts of the Nether River Great Cosmos attacked together and activated the immortal weapon. Buzz! The immortal weapon vibrated and was revived. It erupted with a shocking aura and turned into a terrifying sword light that slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's hair stood on end as he felt a fatal crisis. Immortal weapon. Even if it was a broken immortal weapon, once it was revived, its power would be extremely terrifying and unparalleled. That was because it was the power of the immortal Tao. Block it! Lu Ming roared as he frantically punched out with both fists. In an instant, he had thrown out 99 punches. 99 punches were formed in one breath and bombarded the shocking sword light. Clang! 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 In the blink of an eye, 99 explosions took place. With each explosion, the immortal armament battle sword light would weaken a bit. After 99 explosions, the immortal armament battle sword was forcibly stopped and sent flying backwards. How was that possible? All the living beings of the Outerverse widened their eyes in disbelief. The immortal weapon had actually been blocked. It was a broken immortal weapon with scars on it and was not complete enough. There was a difference in power between it and a complete immortal weapon. However, it was definitely close to the power of the immortal Tao and was no small matter. An ordinary ninth tribulation sub-immortal would die in one hit. Now, it had actually been blocked. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. More people, help me. The power of the immortal weapon just now has not been fully recovered. Wang Gu roared. I'll help you. Me too. Several ninth tribulation sub-immortals appeared behind Wang Gu and injected their power into the immortal weapon. This time, the immortal weapon really erupted with an even more terrifying power and slashed toward Lu Ming again. Not only that, but in another direction, an incomparably huge immortal mountain suppressed Lu Ming. Another immortal weapon. It was still incomplete and had scars on it. It was a broken immortal weapon that emitted boundless sacred light from the sacred light great cosmos. These great cosmoses had indeed brought great killing weapons. They had not used them before. Firstly, there was no need because the seal of the Azure godly realm had already been broken. Secondly, the universal core of the primitive universe had not merged. The primitive universe was very weak and could not withstand the power of the broken immortal weapon. It would be completely destroyed. However, now that the universal core had merged and the laws of order spread out, the primitive universe was many times more stable than before. They judged that it should be able to withstand the power of the broken immortal weapon. Moreover, this was a critical moment and they had to stop Tang Feng. The two broken immortal weapons charged toward Lu Ming. About 10 ninth tribulation sub-immortals activated them. The remaining ninth tribulation sub-immortals charged toward Tang Feng to stop him from continuing to break through. Facing the attacks of the two broken immortal weapons, Lu Ming's body trembled violently. His muscles and bones were under tremendous pressure as if they were about to collapse. 10 ninth tribulation sub-immortals activated the two broken immortal weapons with all their strength and launched an attack. Lu Ming could not block it. This was already beyond the power of a sub-immortal. Chapter 5207. Come out. At the critical moment, Lu Ming grabbed at his glabella. A piece of metal flew out from his sea of consciousness and was caught by Lu Ming. This piece of metal was obtained from the dark-skinned old man in the Grand Supreme Immortal Capital. Back then, the dark-skinned old man had used this piece of metal to block the human king's broken sword and displayed extraordinary power. During the previous battle, the piece of metal had not moved at all. Clearly, it was unwilling to help Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming took it out forcefully. The power from the blood crystal of the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty was injected into the broken metal frantically. Boom! A terrifying power recovered from the piece of metal. The piece of metal emitted a resplendent light. A pitch-black metal rod appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Of course, most of the metal rod was illusory and made of energy. Only that piece of metal was real. This should be the true appearance of the immortal weapon that the piece of metal belonged to. A long rod. Boom! Lu Ming held the rod with one hand and attacked. The first to bear the brunt was the black battle sword. Clang! The two collided, and a deafening explosion erupted. The black battle sword shook violently, and the sword light dissipated as it was sent flying. Lu Ming did not stop. The metal rod changed direction and attacked the huge mountain above his head, sending it flying. Kill! Lu Ming roared like an invincible war immortal. The metal rod swept out, and the rod light erupted. It was unparalleled. Not only did it attack the two pieces of immortal weapons, but it also enveloped the other Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals. The huge rod's shadow filled the sky as if an entire world was pressing down. Oh no! The Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals' expressions changed drastically as they felt a fatal threat. If this rod hit, not many Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals could withstand it. At the critical moment, a green pagoda rushed out of the body of a Ninth Tribulation sub-immortal from the jade-clear great cosmos. The green pagoda only had 3 levels, and it was obviously a broken immortal weapon. As the 10th great cosmos of the Yang realm, it had obviously brought a powerful weapon this time. The green pagoda rapidly expanded and flew up, colliding with the rod's shadow. Boom! A terrifying force swept out. Those sub-immortals who were at a disadvantage trembled violently and retreated continuously. Many of them vomited blood. They couldn't even withstand the shockwaves from the collision of broken immortal weapons. The azure pagoda was sent flying, and Lu Ming's staff shadow also dissipated. Again. Lu Ming roared. Lu Ming could feel that the power of the blood crystal from the Grand Supreme Immortal Dynasty's Lord was being depleted at a rapid rate. After all, the blood crystal's energy was just a shedding of the Taishang Immortal Dynasty's Emperor. It didn't have much energy left. After the continuous battles, it had already consumed a lot of energy. Now that it was using its full strength to activate the immortal artifact fragment, it wouldn't be able to last for long. But as long as he could hold on until Tang Feng broke through the immortal gate and became an immortal, it would be enough. Lu Ming didn't care about the rapid consumption of energy. He urged the staff to vibrate and split into 3. 3 staff shadows bombarded 3 different directions. As the staff shadow pressed down, the Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals found it difficult to find an opportunity to attack Tang Feng. Buzz! A shocking sword chime erupted. Tang Feng gathered all his energy, and his essence, energy, and spirit erupted all at once, turning into the strongest sword in his history. Boom! The strongest sword light slashed on the immortal gate. Crack! Bang! The immortal gate emitted a dazzling light, like the last afterglow. Then, with a bang, it exploded. An incomparably terrifying force poured down from behind the immortal gate, enveloping Tang Feng. Tang Feng's aura instantly soared. The speed of the increase was astonishing. His physical body, soul, and strength were all transforming rapidly. This was an extreme sublimation, jumping from a life to another life level. Success! Fei Huang, the 3 primogenitors, Feng Huang, Tsang Lin, and the others were all overjoyed. He had broken through the immortal gate and become an immortal. Tang Feng had succeeded and was rapidly transforming. He had already transcended the sub-immortal realm and become another life form. An immortal life form that was immortal and indestructible. Oh no! The Ninth Tribulation sub-immortals of the Outerverse were all shocked. To be honest, this was really beyond their expectations. No one could have imagined that someone could become an immortal under such circumstances. Even the powerhouses behind them could not have imagined it. Even if the heart of the universe had fused, it had only just fused. It was still early for the antediluvian universe to be truly complete and suitable for immortal ascension. It still needed a period of time to recover. Under such conditions, it should be impossible to become an immortal. However, Tang Feng had done it. He had turned the impossible into the possible and created a miracle. Rising from the ashes and becoming an immortal from the ruins was too terrifying. Retreat. Xue Higan was the most decisive. He retreated and quickly left. He knew that there was no room for change. Tang Feng had become an immortal and obtained the heart of the universe. They could no longer seize the heart of the universe. A new immortal had successfully broken through with the heart of the universe as the foundation. This was too great, and they complemented each other. As long as this immortal did not die, the heart of the universe would not shatter again. Sure enough, the heart of the universe shone and emitted a boundless aura. The laws of order were like endless threads that extended into the antediluvian universe. At this moment, the antediluvian universe became incomparably stable. As long as the immortal did not die, the heart of the universe would not shatter. The antediluvian universe would not be destroyed. Let's go. Seeing Shwe-Higan retreat, the other ninth tribulation sub-immortals were not fools. They immediately had the intention to retreat and frantically retreated. Kill! Suddenly, Tang Feng shouted. His eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Now that he had become an immortal, how could he let these people retreat? With a raise of his hand, boundless sword light burst out, shattering the void and charging toward the sub-immortals of the outerverse. The first to bear the brunt were those ordinary sub-immortals. This time, only the Nether River Great Cosmos and the Holy Light Great Cosmos, which were the first to arrive, had brought ordinary sub-immortals. Those sub-immortals and origins that had besieged the Azure Divine Realm previously. The other great cosmoses had sent ninth tribulation sub-immortals. These ordinary sub-immortals did not even have the chance to scream before they were annihilated by the sword light and turned into ashes. Even more sword light charged toward those ninth tribulation sub-immortals. This was the attack of a true immortal. It was unparalleled. No, many ninth tribulation sub-immortals roared and desperately resisted. But everything was in vain. Their attacks and defenses were like paper under the sword light. They were broken with one strike. Puff! Puff! Blood flashed and dyed the void red. In an instant, 21 ninth tribulation sub-immortals were completely killed by the sword light. Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air. Was this the power of a true immortal? Tang Feng had just broken through. With a casual strike, these previously unparalleled ninth tribulation sub-immortals were completely vulnerable. 21 of them died in an instant. These were all ninth tribulation sub-immortals. They had worked hard and gone through many tribulations to reach this step. They were just one step away from becoming an immortal. But now, 21 of them had died in one move. It was like cutting melons and vegetables. The remaining dozen or so did not die because they were protected by the broken immortal weapon. Chapter 5208. Previously, Lu Ming had killed 2 ninth tribulation sub-immortals. There were still 35 ninth tribulation sub-immortals in the outerverse. Shwe-Higan, who had escaped first, still had 34. The remaining 13 managed to keep their lives thanks to the protection of the 3 damaged immortal artifacts. However, Tang Feng's sword light was too terrifying. Although they were blocked, the backlash still made the 13 ninth tribulation sub-immortals vomit blood and suffer heavy injuries. Humph, trying to block me with broken immortal weapons? Ridiculous. Tang Feng said coldly. He took a step forward and appeared above the 13 ninth tribulation sub-immortals. He grabbed at the air. Buzz! 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 The 3 broken immortal weapons vibrated and broke free from the control of Wang Gu and the others. They flew toward Tang Feng. In the end, Tang Feng waved his hand and put them all away. The remaining 13 ninth tribulation sub-immortals were pale. Tang Feng, now that you have become an immortal, the primitive universe will return to the Yang Court. If you kill us, it will be difficult to explain to the Holy Light Great Cosmos in the future. A ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the Holy Light Great Cosmos shouted. That's right. The ancestor of the Jade Clear Great Cosmos is the Deputy Court Lord of the Yang Court. If the primitive universe wants to develop, it's best to befriend us. A ninth tribulation sub-immortal from the Jade Clear Great Cosmos also shouted. They were really afraid. Now, they could only bring up the cosmos behind them. According to the laws of the Yang Court, a new true immortal from the primitive universe could return to the Yang Court as long as they fulfilled certain conditions and received the protection and resources of the Yang Court. However, the Jade Clear Great Cosmos and the Holy Light Great Cosmos were giants in the Yang Court. They were very important. If the primitive universe wanted to develop smoothly, they could not offend them. They could only use this to save their lives. Ridiculous. Tang Feng revealed a mocking smile. As he raised his hand, sword chi that filled the sky slashed down. Ah, Tang Feng, the immortals of the jade clear great cosmos will not let you off. The immortal kings of the holy light great cosmos will make you suffer. The ninth tribulation sub-immortals from the jade clear great cosmos and the holy light great cosmos shouted in despair. The ninth tribulation sub-immortals from the Styx river great cosmos and the skeletal great cosmos also shouted crazily. They were unwilling to accept this. They were only a step away from becoming true immortals. They had worked so hard, experienced so many tribulations, and were only a step away from proving their Tao. They were really unwilling to die just like that. However, no matter how unwilling they were, it was useless. As the sword light slashed down, the remaining 13 sub-immortals of the ninth tribulation were all killed. Good kill. Lu Song, Yao Yi, and the other origins in the Azure Divine Realm roared and trembled with excitement. Previously, they had watched helplessly as the sub-immortals of the Azure Immortal Realm and the demon race self-destructed one after another. They were too aggrieved and powerless. At this moment, he was finally able to vent his anger. Those sub-immortals had not died in vain. Shui Higan, after killing the 13 nine tribulation sub-immortals, Tang Feng raised his head and looked in the direction where Shui Baitan had escaped. He waved his hand, and the void cracked open. Through the crack in the void, he saw a figure frantically fleeing in the distance. It was Shui Higan. At this moment, Shui Baitan's hair stood on end. His sharp spiritual sense sensed a fatal danger. He knew that Tang Feng would not let him go. He had to escape from the primitive universe. He desperately ran towards a space passage. As long as they escaped from the universe channel, they would be safe. Kill. Tang Feng said softly and slashed with the battle sword in his hand. A sword light slashed out along the crack and crossed an infinite distance in an instant. It suddenly appeared above Shui Baitan's head and slashed at him. Roar. Shui Baitan let out a beast-like roar and activated the broken deity weapon with all his strength. He slashed upward with all his might, hoping to block the sword light. However, a broken deity weapon was still a broken deity weapon after all. There was still a gap between it and a real deity. Besides, it was not controlled by a true deity, so it could not block Tang Feng's sword light. With a clang, Shui Baitan's broken deity weapon was sent flying. The sword light did not stop and continued to slash at Shui Baitan. Shui Baitan's face turned pale. Was he really going to die here? He was unwilling to. To be honest, with his strength, he could knock on the deity gate and become a deity at any time. However, he was ambitious and did not want to become a deity so easily. He wanted to accumulate more strength. He did not want to become an ordinary true deity. He wanted to become a powerful Tai true deity or even a peerless true deity. However, it was too late. He could not block the sword light. The sword light was about to fall. Shui Baitan's body suddenly shone. A hazy figure appeared from his body and slapped at Tang Feng's sword light. Boom! Tang Feng's sword light was blocked. Patriarch! Shui Baitan shouted in surprise. The figure was an patriarch of the Nirvana Grand Cosmos. He was an immortal king with amazing strength. Immortal king. It's the immortal king. He is reflected by Shui Baitan's body. Ancestor Wu Nian exclaimed. After all, he was a veteran true immortal who had almost reached the peak of the true immortal realm when he was at his peak. The others were shocked. An immortal king had arrived. The Eldritch universe had just stabilized and such an expert was already here. The king of the immortal Tao, the king of the deities. He was really powerful and had almost reached the peak of the immortal Tao. Tang Feng had just attained the Tao. How could he be a match for him? My original body is far away in the Nirvana Grand Cosmos. You want to save him with a reflection? Dream on. Your original body is more or less the same. Tang Feng was very powerful. He stepped out and shattered the void, arriving not far away from Shui Baitan. Swoosh! The sword light was shocking and dazzling, illuminating the entire Eldritch universe. At this moment, no matter where the universe was, everyone could see the sword light. The sword light that stunned the universe slashed at Schwebiten. In front of Schwebiten, the hazy figure waved his hands as if he was pushing a strange force to attack Tang Feng's sword light. Rumble. Two terrifying forces collided in the void. The boundless void was endlessly being destroyed and restored. The cycle repeated. This collision was too shocking. It was the true power of the immortal Tao. If Tang Feng hadn't become an immortal and the heart of the universe hadn't recovered, the power of this attack would have destroyed the entire Eldritch universe and made it disappear completely in the chaos. But now, it would be fine. After the attack, the sword light dissipated and Tang Feng's figure retreated 3 steps. The figure also retreated 2 steps. The hazy figure's eyes shone with dazzling light as if he was shocked. It's really a miracle to be able to unleash such power after just attaining the Tao, the hazy figure whispered. Kill. Tang Feng didn't say much. He only said the word kill coldly and his sword disappeared. In the infinite distance where the Azure Divine Realm was located, the broken sword of the human king turned into a ray of light, breaking the void and appearing in Tang Feng's hand. The sword ancestor held the broken sword in his hand and his aura rose again. At the same time, a huge amount of power in the Eldritch universe gathered toward Tang Feng. Chapter 5209. In the primeval great cosmos, countless fragments of continents soared into the sky. In the depths of the void, a massive amount of power rushed towards Tang Feng. If one's cultivation was high enough, they would even be able to see the endless threads converging towards Tang Feng and covering his body and sword. This was the order of the primeval great cosmos. Tang Feng was borrowing the power of the primeval great cosmos's order. This sword strike was incomparably stunning, surpassing both ancient and modern times. Its might was so great that it was shocking. Even the patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos had a change in expression. He quickly formed hand seals with both hands, drawing upon the power of the immortal Tao and slashing out a terrifying blade light. Nirvana blade. Boom. The blade and sword collided, and the universe trembled. In the next instant, the blade light shattered, and the patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos retreated rapidly. Let's go. Then, the patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos waved his sleeves and swept Schweihigen away. His actual body was far away in the Nirvana great cosmos. He was just borrowing the power of Schweihigen's body to reflect. The distance was too far, and the power reflected was limited. Tang Feng had risen from the ashes and become an immortal in the ruins. With the core of the universe as his foundation, this kind of immortal ascension was no small matter. In a sense, he could represent the primeval great cosmos and borrow the power of the primeval great cosmos to fight against his enemies. As long as he was in the primeval great cosmos, Tang Feng's power would be extremely shocking and far surpass his cultivation base. Under such circumstances, it wasn't good to stay for long. He could only retreat first. Schweihigen couldn't die here. You want to leave? Stay. Tang Feng shouted as his sword light pierced the sky and struck out again. This was the sword of a supreme sword immortal. It shattered everything and instantly caught up with the patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos and went straight for Schweihigen. The patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos created dozens of layers of defense, but when the sword light struck, these layers of defense collapsed one after another. Boom! In the end, one of the arms of the patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos was destroyed. Schweihigen, who was within it, screamed in horror. Freeze! The patriarch of the Nirvana great cosmos attacked with all his strength. Although the power of the sword light was constantly weakened by him, he was still a step too late. Schweihigen was swept by the sword light, and she screamed in pain as half of her body exploded. The patriarch of the Prometha great cosmos waved his hand and grabbed the remaining half of Schweihigen's body. Then, he tore the space apart and disappeared completely. Tang Feng's expression was somewhat ugly. Schweihigen still ran away. After all, he had just ascended to immortality and had yet to consolidate his cultivation base. Although he could borrow the power of the desolate universe, there was still a limit to it. As for the other party, it was clear that the other party was an immortal king. If the other party wanted to protect a single person, it would be very difficult for him to succeed. To be able to achieve such a result was already very good. Schwebai and had been hit by the sword, which had damaged his foundation. It would take a long time for him to recover. In the future, it would even be very difficult for him to knock on the immortal pass and attain immortality. For a peerless genius, this might be even more unbearable than death. Amazing, truly amazing. This scene was seen by Lu Ming and the others. That was because the crack that Tang Feng had torn open earlier had projected the scene. Lu Ming, Lu Song, and Yao Yi were the most excited. Well done. At the same time, they were deeply impressed by Tang Feng's invincible demeanor. This father-in-law of mine is reliable. He's as elegant as me. Lu Ming murmured in his heart. After Schwebai and was rescued, Tang Feng didn't return. Instead, he sat cross-legged where he was. Then, figures kept walking out of his body. Clones. They were different from Fei Huang's 10,000 spirit clones. These were just ordinary clones, or rather, clones with immortal power. Once an immortal became an immortal, the origin power in the body would be completely transformed into immortal power. This was a supreme power with infinite power, endless changes, and endless mysteries. It could suppress all the power in the world. These clones were all formed by Tang Feng with a trace of immortal power. A total of 100 clones tore open space and flew to various places in the desolate universe. On a fragment of a continent, there was an ancient ruin. An overlord of a great universe in the Eon world had broken into the ruin and plundered all the treasures in it. Now, many people were still sweeping through the ruins. The void cracked open and a figure suddenly came out. It was none other than Tang Feng's clone. Who is it? A sixth tribulation sub-immortal shouted coldly and threw a punch at Tang Feng. They didn't know about the previous battle at all. They only felt that there was a change in the desolate universe, so they naturally didn't know Tang Feng. Kill. Tang Feng said coldly. With a wave of his hand, boundless sword light erupted. Immortal power, no, the sixth tribulation sub-immortal screamed in horror. The next moment, the sword light shredded him into ashes. The rest of the sword light swept through the ruin and wiped out all the outerverse experts. At the same time, similar things were happening in many places in the desolate universe. Tang Feng wanted to kill all the creatures that had invaded the desolate universe. On the other side of the universe, where the Holy Light Great Universe's experts were, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above them. It was naturally Tang Feng's clone. Not good. As soon as Tang Feng appeared, the Holy Light Great Universe's experts felt that something was wrong. Their 9 tribulation sub-immortals had gone to besiege the Ashen Azure godly realm, but now, an expert from the desolate universe had suddenly appeared here. Could something have happened in the battle in the Ashen Azure godly realm? Kill. After Tang Feng's clone appeared, he didn't waste any words and directly attacked. The sky was filled with sword light. Boundless sword light enveloped everyone within. It was unparalleled. The people of the Holy Light Great Universe revealed looks of despair. But at that moment, the void suddenly exploded. Boundless sacred light burst out from the depths of the dark void. This sacred light flew out and hit the sword light, blocking all of it. Then, a figure appeared and rapidly enlarged. It was indomitable and filled the void of the universe. It was so big that the continent fragment wasn't even the size of his palm. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Tang Feng. A vast, supreme, and eternal aura filled the entire void. Lord True Immortal. The experts of the Holy Light Great Universe cried out in surprise. True Immortal. Tang Feng frowned slightly. He could see that this wasn't an imprint or a projection of power. It was a true body. A true immortal had arrived with his true body. Congratulations on becoming an immortal. From now on, you can transcend the universe and enjoy eternity. The Holy Light Great Universe's true immortal was very polite and cupped his fists at Tang Feng. You want to protect them? Tang Feng asked. Fellow immortal, how about giving me some face? Holy light great universe's true immortal Tao. You don't have that much face. These people must stay here today. Tang Feng was very domineering. He even dared to use his sword against an immortal king, let alone a true immortal. Fellow immortal, you have now become an immortal. According to the laws of the Yang Court, as long as you complete one more mission, you can re-enter the Yang Court. According to the secular world, you and I will be officials of the same court and will see each other frequently. If you are overbearing, it won't benefit you or your desolate universe. The holy light great universe's true immortal was very polite, but the threat in his words couldn't be more obvious. Chapter 52:10. Tang Feng frowned slightly. He had to consider the other party's words. If it was just him, he wouldn't care. However, he had a wife, children, disciples, and friends. He had to be careful. Moreover, the primordial universe was riddled with holes and had many things to do. It needed time to develop and a stable environment. Thus, joining the Yang Court was the best choice. If he joined the Yang Court, not only would he be protected from the attacks of the Yin world, but he would also receive a large amount of resources from the Yang Court. It was crucial for the development of the primitive universe. The holy light great cosmos's influence in the Yang Court was not to be underestimated. If they really became enemies, it would be very disadvantageous for the primitive universe's future development. The competition and killing between the younger generation was just a small matter. However, once the true immortals started fighting, it would be a big deal. Countless thoughts flashed through Tang Feng's mind. If it were him, he would definitely take action. Not only would he kill these true immortals and their origins, but he would also kill this true immortal in front of him. After killing him, he would just leave. However, the hope of the primitive universe's development now rested on him. Looks like I'm not the only one here. The holy light great cosmos's true immortal suddenly looked in other directions. Suddenly, many terrifying figures appeared in many places in the universe. They were all immortal path experts from some great cosmos in the Yang realm. These figures were incomparably huge. They squeezed the void and protected the experts of their great cosmos. Tang Feng frowned and suddenly looked in another direction in the universe. The Yin world's true immortal. Tang Feng muttered. Not long ago. On the other side of the universe. This was the place where the experts of the Nether River Great Cosmos were stationed. Although many experts of the Nether River Great Cosmos had gone to the Azure Divine Realm, there were still many experts stationed here. Tang Feng's clone appeared and immediately attacked, slashing out a shocking sword light. However, it was the same in the Holy Light Great Cosmos. The sword light was blocked, and a figure appeared in the void. It was indomitable, and its aura could swallow mountains and rivers. It was surrounded by a huge nether river. It was a true immortal expert. Kill. Tang Feng didn't have any scruples facing the Yin world's true immortal. Since they were in different camps, it was fine even if he killed all the living beings in the Yin world. The dazzling sword light carried a fatal power as it slashed toward the true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos. Humph. You just broke through to the true immortal stage and you want to fight me? Courting death. The true immortal from the Nether River Great Cosmos snorted coldly. He was a veteran true immortal who had been on the immortal Tao for a long time. Tang Feng had only just attained his Tao, yet he had dared to attack him. Then I'll take this opportunity to get rid of him. The Nether River Great Cosmos blasted out a palm strike. Immediately, the Nether River surged and tried to swallow Tang Feng. Boom! The sword light slashed onto the underworld river. Huge waves surged into the sky, and the underworld river rolled backward. The face of the true immortal from the Nether River Great Cosmos changed as he roared and pushed out with both hands. The underworld river surged. On it, there were unexpectedly creatures that appeared. They roared towards the heavens and released terrifying attacks. After all, Tang Feng was only a clone. In the end, he could not resist and was forced to retreat. In the distance, Tang Feng's real body was originally sitting cross-legged. At this moment, he suddenly stood up and took a deep breath. All of his doppelgangers in the universe returned at the same time and entered his body. His true body took a step forward and appeared near the true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos. Sword hums reverberated throughout the universe as sword lights soared into the sky, sweeping across all directions as it slashed down continuously. The true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos roared and took out his ninth tribulation quasi-immortal weapon to resist with all his might. That's right. It was a ninth tribulation quasi-immortal weapon, not an immortal weapon. After all, there were too few true immortal weapons. Immortal weapons of true immortals could not be refined. Only those who had obtained them at the beginning of the great cosmos and in the depths of the primal chaos could possibly nurture them. The number of immortal weapons in the entire universe C could be counted. Every one of them had a record and a name. Most true immortals did not have immortal weapons. They used quasi-immortal weapons that accompanied them. However, the true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos was horrified to discover that he was no match for Tang Feng. Tang Feng's sword light was endless and incomparably sharp as if it could cut through everything. He actually could not block it. Boom! 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 Figures kept appearing in the void in all directions. Each of them was indomitable and had a shocking aura. All of them were immortal Tao existences. They even used mysterious methods to reflect the universe and project the situation in this place. Everyone in the universe could see the scene here. These are true immortals. They are all true immortals. The three primogenitors, Phoenix of the Yao race, Changqing, and the others exclaimed. There were at least a dozen true immortals. They felt a huge pressure and did not know the purpose of these true immortals. These true immortals were all watching the battle seriously. Some of them were shocked. He did not use the power of the primitive universe, but he can actually suppress He Luo. How shocking. He Luo is a veteran true immortal. He has attained the Tao for countless years, but he is still no match for him. Could this person have become a Grand Unity true immortal? A Grand Unity true immortal? These people were silent. Their eyes were filled with jealousy and envy. Ah! The true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos roared and frantically counterattacked. However, it was useless. He felt that the pressure Tang Feng was exerting on him was increasing. Pfft! In the end, his Nether River was severed. The sword light swept across his body. He vomited blood and his immortal body was almost cut in half. The remaining power of the sword light swept across, and a dozen experts of the Nether River Great Cosmos exploded, their bodies and souls destroyed. Kill! Tang Feng shouted coldly and attacked aggressively. He wanted to completely kill this true immortal of the Nether River Great Cosmos. You are too much. A cold voice was heard. Then, a huge bone claw grabbed at Tang Feng. The bone claw looked like a human bone claw. Its bones were jade-colored and crystal clear. However, the strange thing was that there were traces of golden blood flowing under the crystal-clear bones. The bone claw was huge and covered a part of the void with boundless power. Everything in its path was destroyed and melted. Immortal King! The true immortal of the sacred light Great Cosmos exclaimed. The other true immortals were also shocked. The Immortal King had made a move. It was not like the Immortal King of the Permetha Great Cosmos who had only used a projection. This was his real body. Tang Feng growled. The Immortal King was too strong and unparalleled. He felt that his immortal body could not withstand the attack and was about to be destroyed. He shouted and the power of the universe gathered towards him again. His body was covered with endless order laws as he slashed with his sword with all his strength. The sword light slashed at the bone claw. With a clang, the battle sword shook. Tang Feng's body was pushed back and he vomited a mouthful of blood. After all, he had just broken through. Even if he could borrow the power of the primitive universe, he could not match a true immortal king. Kill! A cold shout came from behind the bone claw. The bone claw only paused for a moment before it continued to grab at Tang Feng. It was obviously trying to kill Tang Feng. More than a dozen immortal Tao experts from the Yang realm had come, but they were indifferent. No one helped. Tang Feng roared and drew his sword to fight again.